Oh, damn. That switched faster than I thought. I apologize. Sup, everybody? This is Carrick with ACG, and I'm here with Johnny for the Best Gaming Podcast, number 516. 516.
Welcome back.
Just a single couple, well, not a single, but just a couple days prior to Doom coming out. The Doom reviews came out here this morning. It did well, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about GTA's new trailer and the drop and the tech behind it. Mafia 3. We're going to take some viewers' questions. I'm trying to work through viewers' questions. We have about 800, and of the 800 we have, about 600 are probably a week old, growing into 2 weeks old because we don't get to that many questions. So make sure if you're asking the same question, when you do listen, if you hear us answer your question, I'd love for you to give me a little pop goes the weasel, and inform me on Telegram or Twitter or DMs that we answered it. Because otherwise, pretty easy for us to hit that same old shit all over again. What about you, Johnny? How's the week been?
Like heart to heart?
Heart to heart.
Honestly, it's been a little tough, but very rewarding. Just tough at work, some challenges, but things are coming along well, and it feels good at the end of the week. You put in some work. I got a nice workout as well, so I feel good overall. And I've been enjoying Expedition 33. Some kind of ups and downs, but overall it's been really fun.
Dude, I feel like not everybody needs to hear everybody else's bullshit or whatever, but I do feel like usually when I ask, I do mean it. I will listen if somebody's having a hard day or whatever. But I appreciate the one thing about you. I got to say this. Your name came up a couple weeks ago in a chat. It wasn't our voice chat. I think it was actually in one of the side chats or something. But somebody brought up giving advice to people because they were trying to give advice to somebody. And I was like, listen, man, the number of times people ask you if they ask you for advice, that's really code for just listen to my bitching. What I've noticed about you is you and I will joke, and I do the same for you, because if you say, or you and Reg, if you guys say something and it's about like the things that you guys know about, my personal opinion is the least I can do is fucking listen and try to enact whatever it is you're saying, especially if I brought the problem. I got to say, one thing I've always noticed about you is week 2, maybe 3 will come by, and you'll be popping in here and you'll be like, oh, remember when I asked about, blah, blah, blah. We did it with ChatGPT. You were just, I was explaining to you ways in which it can help you identify something or work in code or do something that on the side. And it does impress me how often the people I know, dude, advice, you'll give it to them, and 3 weeks later, you realize when they're talking, they're in the same mired shit. And you're like, damn, son, like, I get it. Obviously none of us need to be a personal trainer for somebody, but you're like, shoot, dude, because I would say that's a skill, right? Taking advice is a skill,
Yes.
and maybe filtering it in what you do, but taking it at least and going, hey, I asked for this shit.
Or, giving it a try, because how often people will listen to a self-improvement podcast,
but won't listen to their friends who have the same background, right?
Okay, that too.
Dude.
That pisses me off.
Yes.
But what I was going to say is they don't actually try to implement what, so they will mention 10 things in the podcast, but they won't actually take even one and actually implement it or like put it into practice. It will be in their head and they're thinking about it, but they're not actually trying stuff out.
Yeah, I think with I opened up a separate QA if you guys want to tell me stuff that you guys need help with or anything like that. We always want to put that out there, because I was dealing with somebody this last weekend who had this issue, and they were mired in a spot legally that we had tried to walk them back from like 12 times. And we were like, dude, I'm telling you, man, we can do this. Like, we can do it. Oh no, I'm gonna wait. And I was all, man, if you wait, we may be talking to you through bars, or we may be talking to you through a situation that you're not going to really want to engage in. And that's exactly what happened. Not the through bars, but it was just one of those things where I'm like, damn, man, that absolutely sucks that they didn't listen. What's the best advice you've ever got? Like, what's the best advice? And by the way, it doesn't have to be advice even that you took. And it can't be from a book because that's just generic advice. They're not at your house. Do you remember good advice you ever got from somebody?
Oof. Yeah, from somebody. I think a really good one was that you don't have to be productive at all times. Because I used to have this almost toxic productivity thing where if I was going to play guitar, it had to be to record, to produce something.
Output had to be created.
It had to be output. If I was going to play a game, it had to be for a video or for a stream. If, the same with everything. If I'm watching a show, it has to be because I'm going to commentate on it or do something. And the moment I pulled back, even with the streams, now I don't have a schedule. I go live if I want to, and if I have good energy. And all of that stuff has opened up so much time. If I just want to do something for myself, or maybe I want to hang out and chat with you guys, or something like that, just having the open space to kind of take shape, whatever it is, without over allocating my time.
And over sort of analyzing whatever moment you're in to see if there's something productive that can be used at the end of the day.
Sometimes you just want to doodle on guitar, and that's fine too. Not everything needs to be a production.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, especially when it comes to advice. I'm trying to think of I will say maybe not the best advice I ever got, but the best one, one thing somebody told me is I was in a high school programming class, and I was basically cheating by using memory to program something. And what I mean by that is I was supposed to be using logic, right? I was supposed to be using programming. But what I had done was realize that what I wanted to program, I could do and basically fool it so that it looked like the exact same thing was occurring, but it was all pretty much from my memory. This is basic that we're talking about. This is, old, ancient ass DOS kind of stuff. And I remember my teacher, Mr. Forty's passed away. He was a great teacher. And he was like, I remember getting to the end and he gave me an F because he was able to see the code, right? And he gave me an F, and then he put a /A, and he was like, the A is because your output looked, right? It looked as if it was doing what it was supposed to, but it's completely useless. It's like putting a brake caliper on your car that isn't one. It just looks like a brake on the car. And I remember him telling me something along the lines of, if you would just fucking randomly, occasionally put all your effort in, because I was a young kid. I was, if I could get away with it, I got away with it. I mean, that's the way it was. And he was like, if you would just occasionally put everything into something the way a teacher is asking, you would do incredibly well. He's like, because you have the actual end result, which looks better than everybody else's. You could have got there. Like, you already know what it looks like. And I remember for some weird reason, because he was honest, he wasn't a teacher at that. He knew my mom. He probably told my mom he was going to say it. I don't know. But because he did cuss a lot. And he was like, you fucking need to buck up and try to figure out how to occasionally restrain your desire to get through something as quick as possible and sit down and do it the way we asked you, because then you can build in efficiencies once you know how it's done. Yeah. And I remember getting up and I was like, what do kids do? Like, fuck you, man. I didn't say that to him. Mr. Ford was big, and this was back in the day when, I don't know, maybe they'd wrestle you to the ground. It's been a while. But I walked away, and then I remember that night, I think one of the best things you and I have talked about is, like, I know you don't have one, but or at least a long one. I had a long commute from home, or from the school to home. I had a super long bus ride, and it just sat with me. It would not stop sitting on my shoulders. It was just constantly running through my head that this dude had figured me out. And, I was in fourth grade.
Damn, he's right.
But I was like, oh, damn, he figured me out. And then I started thinking, like, now my mom knows, I'm sure she knows, or it doesn't matter if she knows. It's like, everybody knows I tried, I felt pretty proud of what I had done memory wise, but I admit I had ignored the stuff he was saying, which is like, he was giving all these instructions, and my brain was like, wait a minute, don't need to follow any of those instructions. I can do this on the side. And it was
It's
great
almost like
advice.
trying
It
to
changed the way I
outsmart-
worked.
Like you were trying to outsmart the system or like bypass some of it.
I was, and it was so dumb. Kel, $5 super chat. What's up, Kel? I hope you're having an awesome week, by the way. He says, the best advice I got was don't marry Jessica. I narrowly dodged that bullet. I've kept aware of her life at a distance. Total train wreck. That's awesome. I also,
that is some specific advice right there.
I love that because I think we all hopefully have that friend who isn't with the other friends. Like if you get 5 friends in a room and they've just seen your girlfriend and she leaves and you're like, hey man, what do you guys think? And everybody's doing this. They're like, oh yeah. And you have the one friend, the Steve, let's call him, of your friends who always sits at the edge and he's just like,
bro.
And just sort of looks off. He won't meet your eyes and you're like, what do you think, Steve? Because for some reason you care if Steve cares, right? Now Steve is the focus of the entire thing. You're like, wait, what about, I don't care about these other guys. What do you think, Steve? Steve's the broker of your, heart's investment. You're like, I gotta find out what Steve thinks. And Steve's like, she's banging other people behind your back, man, for sure. And you're all, no, man. She just called me, Bob one time while we banged.
Very sociable.
Like, she's just very sociable, man. Yeah, he's like, yeah, dude, I'm just saying. Yeah, Steve always knows. That's the best advice right there. Steve always knows.
Yeah.
That's the best advice. So this is a games podcast. We'll get back on games. We got some super chats. We got some Telegram. We're pretty much everywhere now, which it has been a super bonus for us. It's actually helped out quite a bit for getting different information on how the podcast is doing and what people like, as well as Buy Me a Coffee, which we opened up, which is the donation thing, because a lot of people don't like using Patreon or YouTube, which I understand, hadn't thought of, but I totally understand people want different avenues for that kind of stuff.
It's not literally a coffee, is it?
No, it's called Buy Me a Coffee or something like that, and it's a link, and then somebody goes there and and basically it's the cost of, you can do whatever you want, but it's like, cost of a cup of coffie.
Gotcha. I like the symbolism of like Buy Me a Coffee.
Well, not only that, but dude, I've done it myself. The link is easy. Like I went to another YouTuber about 6 weeks ago and was like, I really like this thing, but I don't want to be trapped into a subscription. I'll have to fucking remember to turn off. YouTube membership I already was, but everything was a subscription.
You're already set up to pay for the rest of your life.
Yep, and I just hit a button. Kel also says, I've been loving Deck of Haunts. Yeah, Deck of Haunts is great, man. I did a preview on that. I was really excited to check it out. That one and the Everyday We Fight game. Who, by the way, it was Christopher Odd. He did contact me and tell me that is his game. And he was really happy. We talked about it, week before last? Week before last. And that was very fun to basically sit down and, sort of talk to him just for a brief moment about what it's like working on games, just a short back and forth. But he seems really happy with what he's doing. And he's one of the few that I can say, probably because he focused on a certain genre that it seems like he's nailed it. But back to Deck of Haunts, that game is awesome, man. Like, and we've got Monster Train 2 coming.
Yeah.
Dude, it's packed. It's packed. Well, let's just jump into it. It is packed.
Be insane.
But Doom.
Yes.
So Doom reviews popped a little earlier than I think people expected for whatever reason. The embargo was a little earlier than people expected. It did really well. I think it's either at Eternal's numbers or a point above Eternal's numbers. Are you going to get Doom, do you think? Or are you a Doom fan?
I am a Doom fan. Yeah, I think so. I mean, your review was surprisingly positive given that I know you had some reservations going into it with some of the pitch they had for the game. So it was really cool to see how positive even some of the stuff like the parrying, because let's be honest, parrying can make or break a game. If it's an annoying element, like I think you didn't really like it in Expeditions, for example. So it was cool to hear that really fit into the Doom formula. I think that for me will be really satisfying too. Because a good parrying system, I do like, if it's done well.
If it's done well. Big Mac has asked a couple questions. I want to get to them before I jump into Doom. Looming tariffs could reportedly raise U.S. video game console prices by as much as 70%. The Trump administration's current tariff freeze is set to expire. Yeah, I saw that. Games are going to be a weird discussion point in the next couple months, not only because of that, but just what companies are doing what because of GTA and the movements that we're getting. Also, he says Death Stranding 2 on the beach, gone gold, an exclusive Death Stranding 2 DualSense controller will be available. ACG, any hope for a review? So it's a good question, man. They've got my name. I have noticed a pattern recently that if it's a PC port, I haven't been getting as many codes from them, and those reviews are like right before the game comes out. So they know that that's not necessarily my favorite thing in the world. I did ask for Death Stranding code, but no one's owed code. They know I want it. They know I want Ghost. We'll just have to see. I would love to review it because Death Stranding 2 intrigues me way more than the first one. So I'm actually excited to check it out. But back to Doom. So looking at Doom, dude, you were right. I was very worried. And I will tell you this. Okay, so here's the thing. We're not going to get into the whole what games have parries and what don't, because Doom is a different thing. Doom is not only a different thing, Doom is, from its very core, not really about being in the section of life that exists a frame before your last section of life. Like I said in the review, fates per second dodged is sort of the way those games have been prior. Every moment needs to move you a slice of time forward. And if it doesn't, you're dead. That's the way Doom's played. This distinctly does not play like that. It does, however, feel like Returnal at times, which surprised me. So with general settings, the game has green glowy goob orbs that the enemies can shoot, and the green are the only ones that can be parried. The rest can be soaked into the shield, but it'll stop you, or it'll hold you in place. You'll get a hit animation that's very short, but there'll be something there. You'll hit your shield, and you got to be facing them. But the others can be parried, and parrying them back stuns enemies. And then as you level up, you can get skills that are insane, like a ground fissure that goes out and shakes other enemies and damages them, or daggers, or you'll see in my video an auto turret that comes out and shoots the guy that you bounced it back to. Even with damage to the demons down to 50%, I think by the time my auto turret flipped up, the enemy was almost always dead. So I did find a couple of those add-ons to the shield effectively neutered by gameplay. But I got to tell you, going back into a shot is ridiculously not expected in a Doom game. And it works fucking phenomenally well.
You mean like walking into the projectile
on purpose,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not only that, but if they shoot 3, they've done a good enough job with the collision detection that you can go between 2, like you fucking caterpillar, or like you're weaving in a football, a combine, and hit that last one. And then the other one that shoots will be on the far end. So you have to run, parry. And I got to tell you, man, it took like maybe 3 minutes for me to go, wait a minute. I think they might be onto something. There's a couple reasons why. Doom, you can still move when you're doing it. Doom, you can still shoot when you're doing it. The only thing this does is requires a single button press while you're running. And you'll see in my footage, there were times where I'd be running, leap over an enemy, turn around, and be like, boom, because I heard that they had fired that shot, because they also make a slightly distinctive shot sound. And that was the level of feeling of awesomeness is insanely high. And it's high in a way that maybe people who haven't played Doom might finally feel. Because Doom has always been, hey, man, you better be on some Adderall. You better be sugared up. And this is, it just hold right? Just strafe. And sprint and strafe. This one is somewhat like that, but you can hold the shield. I will say another thing, this moniker, the stand and fight. Personally, I don't think it's anywhere near a big enough deal in this game to be called stand and fight. I think that motto is more it almost felt like it was for the team to give them an idea than it is for your gameplay style. Yes, you can turtle, but enemies are always attacking. And they're attacking from different areas. So standing and turtling is still going to get you shot from the back. It's still going to get you hit. Yeah. They'll come up on you. They're super aggressive, even if I would say maybe at 25%, 50%, this doesn't happen. But above that, they come at you. I like it on the max. And I would say once you get accustomed to parry, here are my personal suggestions. Damage to the demons, 50%. So you're doing 50% lower damage. Damage to the player, 125. And then parry window, either smallest or one above smallest. It's still quite generous because it's a giant fucking shield and giant fucking laser beams that you're bouncing back. So even at its smallest, it isn't Sekiro, right? It's not like that.
It's not like Expedition where like, oh, you missed it by a millisecond.
Oh, God, yeah. And I got to tell you, man, it just, dude, it felt fucking good. I went from being like, I don't know where this is. I don't even know what their plan is. And their trailers were terrible. Their trailers showed guys just standing there doing nothing. And you jump in and you start taking out enemies and you start rebounding that laser back. And it's one of the few times where I was like, holy shit, people can play so many ways. Now, the other thing is, and you saw footage if you watch the review, yes, I like it at 400% speed. I want the game as fast as possible. And I did really well. Was able to crank the damage on the demons, and I was still able to do it. It feels amazing at higher speed. It feels good at normal Doom speed, whatever the 100% is. At 50, it feels like a trainer or super hot, which for somebody who wants to jump in, that might be fun. For example, think about it this way. Set speed to 50, but set everything, including damage to the Slayer, at the absolute maximum. You could have a way different style game. You could have a game where it's all about incredibly precise moving at an incredibly slow speed, because it is really slow when you set it down. But I set it up to about half of what Unreal Tournament was when I cranked that. And we're going to play it whenever it's available for us to play in the what do you call it, in the streams. But it was just a blast. It was one of those things where you feel like, okay, I sort of get it. I don't know about the moniker. I don't even think the moniker should have been used. But this feels like...
So we should drop the whole stand.
We should drop the stand. And because to be honest, it felt very worrisome. It felt a little bit... Remember, they jumped with Eternal. And you're like, whoa. They were like, hey, Mario's fun as hell. Let's add some hell because we're about hell. We're going to put some platforming in here. And it worked, but I think it did alienate some people. There's some alienation that occurs in this game too. We'll get to that. But when it comes to the parry situation, that is fucking solid. There is something so amazing when you're fighting guys who have rail guns and mini guns, and instead of parrying it back, you're just taking this breath for a second, and you've got that shield up, and it's soaking 2 or 3 guys, and you have... Dude, I don't know how to describe it, but... there is this thing that happens in the human brain, especially if you turn the speed up, where you start making decisions even faster than you ever thought you could. And there were moments where my brain did, I feel
just in the zone? Like
it wasn't only in the zone, it was where I swear to God, it was like that's why I made the multiple dimension joke in the review, because that's what it felt like when I was playing. Like I ran through all the possibilities of going up on the hill. Then I ran all the possibilities, and this is in a millisecond. Then I ran up the possibilities of going to the left, going straight, or parrying. And I chose the one that had the highest chance, like Avengers or, Doctor
It's
Strange.
It's like the math meme, like in your head, it's like equations.
Oh, dude, it's so fun. It's so fun in that way. That's one of the best parts of the game. It really does feel like, God damn, I'm surprised they hadn't figured out a way to have his power gauntlet do this before. Even if it was just occasionally, because once you start doing it, I'm going to tell you, once I started doing it, I was like, God damn, I bet you this is never going away, because there's other stuff you can do with this that's nuts. Now, the shield can also be used to do things like make, mechanisms go up and down, because it's always spinning. The fucker starts it like a lawnmower. That's how badass he is. So he starts it like a lawnmower. It's always spinning. He throws it and it continues to spin. But then you can get shield upgrades. For example, you can get one where you throw it at an enemy, it spins, and if you fire, it hurts them, but it rebounds the bullets to the enemies nearby. It bounces off the spinning shield. There's just all these little It's not like one thing. It's not like, okay, and that's what Stand and Fight, the problem with Stand and Fight, is it sounds like that's all you'll be doing. It sounds very static. I mean, Stand is static. And so once you jump in, you start seeing these other skills that you can add onto that shield, plus the parry. And I got to tell you, the sound, when you're like, dong, 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 and you're bouncing 6, 7, 8 guys, laser beams off of you, especially when it's on super fast, it's Pavlov, man. I mean, like, just like a dog, just wanting water. It is like I found myself trying to find positions to where I could do it again, even though there was risk. And I talked about that in the review too. The risk versus reward. I started exploring and started going like, dude, I'm going to leap on these guys, do the shield bash. And then I know this guy to the right is probably going to turn and fire pretty quickly. So I'm going to turn to the right, but move to the left and hammer the shield button. See if I can rebound him. If I can't, and your brain is putting all this together in the time that you're falling down. Plus, you can also get skills that slow down time. So you can get certain weapons that have a slow down time skill. So if you hold the attack down, the entire game slows down, which is awesome. So you basically can, and it wears out, but you can use that occasionally during a time when your brain is like, all right, there are now officially too many motherfuckers. And that did happen. There were times where I was like, I'm officially at the end of my ability to parse the 7,000 realities that this one guy is here, and or that these guys are here. The other weapons are good to okay. I wasn't in love with the weapon choice as much as I thought I would be, and there were a couple I sort of ignored. I did not like have you seen the chain and ball weapon?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. It looks sort of goofy. It looks like a laser beam with a chain that then pretends it's a chain. You know what I mean?
Chain,
yeah. So wasn't super into that, but I liked most of the weapons generally enough. And most of them have either a cool skill or they have an alternative version. For example, the shotgun has a single barreled shotgun or a double barreled. By pressing the button, it sort of transforms into the other version. And then it has its own special or thing that it can do.
So what's your incentive for tossing the shield? Because you got your pants down, right? Without the shield? Like
you do, but you got it. So some enemies have shields of their own. And the only way to break that shield is to heat it up.
Oh.
Or some enemies have armor of their own. And the only way to really damage that is ballistic weapons or the shield. Yeah. Yeah. So if you've got your laser and they're heated up, you can either switch to something else and try to break it off, or you can go up and you can hit them, or you can throw that shield. And it just works, man. I mean, as Todd Howard would say, it just fucking works. See that bad guy over there? You can throw your shield at him. Craig Hawksworth, $10 super chat, just supporting you for supporting us. Thank you very much, Craig. We absolutely appreciate that. You rock. So weapon choice was pretty good, and skills are pretty good. There's some that are great. You get runes for the shields. You get other weapons. I'll talk about the flail. There's another one, but I don't think I've seen footage, and there's a couple things that I'm not quite sure that they really wanted us to talk about. So I was like, okay. But overall, there's 3, and they all have their own generic special skills and abilities. However, while the open world is awesome, there is one big negative you notice, dude, and that is, while it's awesome to be able to move from group to group and ignore this group, even though they're probably following you, there's this moment when you get into the game that you're like, these motherfuckers are sacrificial lambs to Pac-Man, and everybody's a pellet. Everybody in the game is a pellet. They're just waiting for you. They are, no lie, just confabbing, just waiting for you to get there to kill them all. And in Doom and Doom Eternal, we noticed it a little less because of the tight levels. Here, you can see them quite a bit away. And it definitely was noticeable. Like when you're running around, you're like, oh, I get it. Open world games do this, but a lot of the enemies don't portal in. They're there already. and which I actually like,
just waiting to be
but
harvested.
they are just waiting to be harvested. Yeah. And they're not really doing anything. So the demons are there to invade, but they're not. This is the weird thing. Demons are there to invade. Doomslayer is sent down to stop the invasion, right? And he doesn't teleport. He's shot from a fucking gun. Like, that's how badass he is. He's shot from a gun to go and take out the demons who are invading, but invading should mean movement of some kind, and they're not invading anything. Chilling. Yeah, they're standing there, and you're at a gate going, dude, seriously, this is the world's worst invasion. Like, you guys have basically made camp and have decided you're not doing anything. That's the open world or open map crux that the game deals with. Ultimately, though, it was worth it because if you're fighting one group and you didn't have a lot of supplies, you can set the supplies to super high where they drop a bunch, or super low. You also have skills that cause enemies to drop certain supplies, which I actually thought was really cool. That all was great. But what I decided to do was go in there, and whenever I was really facing a guy where I was like, you know what, I probably came into this in the wrong alley. I probably should be to the right, or, you know, I'm going to take this guy out, or there's a guy here and I don't have enough life. Going to another area usually allows for you to kill a couple enemies, get their life, and then move on. So I did find myself bouncing, which was actually pretty fun. It's fun in a I made it myself way. I mean, the game allows it, but it's not a part to where I'm like, oh, I'm going to rate this game higher because of this, whatever. It worked, though, to basically take some guys out and be like, you know what? I just don't think I have what I need right now in supplies or skill. Yeah. This guy's just too fast. It's late at night, whatever. I'm going to go take these other guys out, and then I'm going to circle back around. So did you hit
any like skill walls or like moments in the game where like the difficulty spiked really hard?
Oh, sure. I mean, there's definitely, so here's the thing. There's only one game that there's only a couple games I do really good at, and they're usually old school style shooters, right? Like or a virtual fighter, you know, or a racing game. But, you know, like if it was a platformer, that's not usually where my skill will ever really come out. I did beat Cuphead, but you get my drift. So I did okay here. When it comes to skill gaps, no, it just came to pure, damn, there's a lot going on. There was just times where I would go into a spot and I would drop down and I would use the shield entry and be like, you know what? There's a green guy that is impervious to shots. You really have to break him with the green. There's this guy over here who's launching 3. There's the fucking dudes with the Gatling guns. And there's a boss, or not a boss, I guess you'd call them. They're just, you know, mini harder guys. And then it would inject a couple armored dudes in. And then it would inject a guy who's just on you religiously. There's a particular enemy in the game. You'll see it in my footage where this guy just leaps on you consistently. So if you back up, boom, he's there. Boom, he's hitting. You back up, boom, he's there. Boom, he's hitting. Guess what? Game's like, oh, you don't like that. Here's 4. And so now you've got boom, 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 boom. Now killing them all with a well-timed shield works because you're able to actually move around in the game world until you can identify that they're all at the right distance to trigger them to leap all at the same time. That feels awesome. There was a couple times where I was like, there were 4 or 3, and I would move just right and go, okay, this is about the distance in which they trigger a jump, and that means I'm going to hit every single one of them with the shield and get that momentary, you know, stun.
Okay, but that's you in the zone, man.
That was me in the zone.
You're just seeing the Matrix.
Yeah, like, dude, and I fully admit that for this kind of game, that is sort of my thing. Not like that just happens to be something I enjoy to, you know, trying to do. But overall, I would say the open world was good. It's just, you see some noticeable stuff that pops up in open worlds. The other big problem is the music. And this is a massive problem. So people think that it's because, you know, it's not the same composer. That is in the quality of the music, right? And I liked some of the quality here. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the way the game engine works, I think. So this faster, slower game engine setup that you can do would also need to be tied into, they're probably using MWise, the audio software, and you would have to trigger it correctly so that, so that you could slow that down or speed it up. And I think that for some reason, that's maybe the music wouldn't work that way, but it didn't reflect my actions on screen near as much as the prior Doom games. And so it would be playing and I would be firing and I'd be like, damn it, you know what? It's not really doing that thing where like the beat is going somewhat with the music or the crescendo happens. There would be times, for example, where I'd be running and it would just start playing and I'd be like, what the fuck? There must be a bad guy here. You know, it wasn't the same, and we don't like that. I've already talked about that. I hate that stinger spoiler where a game is like, da 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 da, and you're standing in the open, and you're like, all right, well, obviously a bad guy's coming, right? And the music itself was okay to good. There were some tracks I really liked, but it is definitely not reactive in the way that the old ones felt at all. It just didn't feel like I was reacting almost at all to what I was doing, which was a sort of a bitch, you know.
You know, one thing listening to just 2-3 tracks, I did notice that the grooves are less accentuating of the beat.
Yeah.
So there was something very rhythmic about the other Doom games where it did feel like it was almost a rhythm game. You kind of, even though it wasn't a part of it, you almost fell into this cadence of like, you know, following the beat, or at least it felt like it was organically in sync with the pace of like your shooting and stuff. And this one felt like it just wasn't that accentuated. It was kind of like,
it was almost ambient.
I like the tracks
in a way.
More just without the harping on those tempo beats.
So you know, pretty good music, but definitely not
didn't hit the same.
Yeah, but definitely not what I was expecting when it comes to that. Audio wise, it worked pretty well. For sound, there's some sliders in there I messed around. Performance wise, it was very good. Had no issues with performance. It does require, I mean, we're at that point now. It does require a higher level of RAM than I think people are expecting. Its middle requirement is higher. Regardless, many gamers are at that, but still, it is the Indiana Jones style of, you know, the request is a little higher than it used to be. But I will say performance was very good. And even at natural, no upscaling, none, like just native. Awesome. It ran above 60 and it was cranked on Nightmare. I actually played it mostly on
stuff is
Ultra
always
or High.
So smooth as well.
Yeah. And I didn't really have any stutters or anything. Really at all. It, like, when it comes to that, it was generally pleasant. There wasn't really any surprises to where I was like, you know, this isn't working. I also didn't have any issues with crashing or anything like that. I didn't even have a single crash. So that's good, you know, and I can't speak for anybody else. I don't know if other people did. This is a PC title. You have no clue what's going on PCs. But then the other thing I want to talk about is the mech and dragon flying. I'm not going to spoil anything. We've seen these in the trailers. Yes, you run around a mech. Yes, you fly on a dragon. No, they did not impress me at all. They were how to rent a lizard versus, you know, how you train your dragon.
The mech stuff.
Yeah. The mech stuff was just slow motion, small guys blown up into the size of bigger guys is what it felt like.
Gotcha.
And I really just wanted to get back to the fucking slaying. I'm called Doomslayer, man. And by the way, I was open to them. I was especially open to the dragon because Panzer Dragon's one of my favorite games of all time. Flying a dragon around, hell yeah. But you do the same thing. You basically, it's a timed dodge, which, you know me, not a big fan of that. And so you're sitting there flying and a guy shoots you and it gives you a design and you have to move to the side and then it powers up your gun, move to the side again, fire, hurts their shield, move to the side, move up, move down, fire. The flying, when you're flying around, that was cool. Graphically, it was also very impressive. And I love the idea that some of the parts of the level you can land and you can choose which of the areas of, like, let's say a city to go to first, but it didn't, you know, that's really just you choosing mini levels, I guess. Yeah. Which I liked, but I don't think it didn't necessarily add anything. If it was gone, I honestly think it might have been better because it would have just been more levels and the game is not short on levels. So I almost think that would have been cooler to see. I'm not going to say the number of levels, but I might have, you know, it might be in somebody's video because they didn't say we couldn't, but there's actually a lot of secrets and a lot of levels. And so if they had just added those on top, it might have been even cooler to be like, damn, there's a lot in this game. Because there is a lot. There's a lot of content. There's a lot of secrets. Secrets are fun to try to figure out. There's definitely some I could not figure out. Dude, I did some things where, well, okay, I knew one was an item that I had just got that was in an earlier level. That will happen. Occasionally you'll be like, I don't think I can do that. Oh, okay. I bet you this one requires this thing. And I just got it. But there were some secrets that, man, I sat there for like 15 minutes just looking at a wall going, I know I should be able to figure this out, but I can't figure it out. So like some levels I got 100% of the secrets. Others I got like 10%, I guess, you know, and there's probably 5 to 10 secrets per. So, you know, that would have jumped to 20% if I got one. It was definitely cool. There were some definite secrets where, you know, there were some that were right there in your face where you can see it and they're like, figure it out, bitch. And then there's others where you'd just be going around doing something and something would hit you. And one time somebody hit me and I flew off an edge and there was a ledge that I landed on. And I was like, what? Because I almost was, you know, pausing out of the game or whatever and just being like, I'm going to move off. And instead I was just standing there or waiting to die. And it stopped, and I looked around. And I was like, "Oh shit! There's a ledge here. That's amazing." I love that kind of stuff. I think that kind of thing is great.
So is it like you clear the area and then you look for secrets?
No,
or is this all happening real time?
This is all happening real time because if you clear an area, the game does have a tendency to move you. If you go into a spot, if there's a cutscene, you're usually level complete. So if you do want to search, you should probably search before that. Yeah. So what I did was I just did it organically. I'm like, hey, if I find something that looks peculiar or off to me, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dive into trying to get that. And then voice, dude. Okay. Like voice. There's voices. They didn't make me mad. End of line. There's not much there. It's trying to tell a new story, which I listened to. I didn't skip. I thought was done well for a Doom game, but it's low bar. It's like, we're doing this because this thing's happening. Oh, this other thing's happening. Ooh, what's going on now? But it wasn't like, they weren't sitting down telling tall tales of the death of kings or anything like that. And then the last would just be fun factor. It was fun, man. It was a very enjoyable time. Surprisingly fun, and I will definitely be continually playing it because even just the settings alone makes me sort of go, I wonder if I could get through this fight if I was at 10% damage to the demons or whatever the lowest is. I don't remember what the lowest is, and 100 or 200% to myself.
Are the skills for the weapons a reason to replay? Like if you went down a certain tree?
Those are not super hard to get, and I don't feel like a normal person is probably going to look at those. I described some of them as like, here's a cool skill for this one, but here's a somewhat generic one for this one. So it goes both ways. You can have some really good skills, and then you can have some ones that aren't really good. But I'm not really tied into them. There were a couple I really liked, but in all honesty, what I found was if I liked the weapon, the skills were fine. If I didn't like the weapon, the skills didn't make me like the weapon, if that makes sense. And I didn't hate any of them. I was just like, oh, this weapon's animation or the way it maneuvers or shoots for whatever reason isn't for me. And that was fine. I was able to work around it too. For the most part, you can always work around stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. What have you been playing off of the Doom stuff for a bit?
So I've been playing mostly Expedition 33 and some League of Legends, but yeah, I'm on the final part of the game in Expedition 33.
Ooh, I froze.
Did I lose you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, continue though.
Okay. I'm in the final stretch of the game. I can't technically finish the story at any point, but there's a lot of stuff in the overworld that's now open and kind of popping up. So I've been doing some of that. I do think I will pretty much just complete the game tomorrow or the weekend, because I think this was a good length. I'm glad the game is not longer. And I do think that there have been some ups and downs since we last spoke. I still really love the combat system overall, but it's definitely frustrating in the final act when every enemy you encounter completely destroys you and one-shots you. and you have to, everywhere you go, this happens. But there's basically one path, which is through doing your companion quests that will kind of get you up to a certain power level where you can actually do stuff and be somewhat okay in fights. So because I didn't know that, I just kept getting smoked. I would go here, let me try this enemy. Nope. He has 10 turns and I'm instantly one shot if I miss one parry. So I think there's some issues there with like the pacing, how they introduced that final act to get you up to speed in the power level required. And then I also think that the story is not something, I will just say it this way, it's not something that speaks to me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm conflicted in saying this because I loved the characters quite a lot. But there's something about the story being so dire at all times that the little levity in there wasn't really enough for me to feel that sort of camaraderie between characters that much. And some characters are kind of pulled away from you for different reasons that we won't mention as well. So I think some of the stuff in the story didn't work for me. We'll just say that because anything else will be a bit too spoilery. There are things that happen that make things matter less. And that, to me as a theme,
was not resonating with you?
Didn't resonate. I actually wanted the opposite. I wanted, consequences to be more meaningful, and it felt like it was the opposite.
I'm getting close.
Wow, you are
getting close.
Titan right now.
Yeah, give me a second. So what about without? So we can't spoil this. What would you say? What's your So your sticking point is story. Is that what your sticking point has become?
Sticking point is story, mostly, and then the way that Act 3 has a very brusque jump in difficulty, where every enemy is literally like endgame boss level, and it takes you a bit of grinding to even be able to fight. And even then, enemies are getting like 4 turns to every turn that I have. So it's not really fun until once you get to a certain power level. Yes, it's awesome. And you get to explore all the map. And it is great. There's a lot to explore, a lot of stuff to enjoy. But yeah, getting there was a bit of a grind without much guidance as well. As someone who didn't look up like guides and stuff, definitely felt a bit...
You don't use guides anyway, right? There we go.
What? Sorry?
You don't use guides anyway, do you?
Generally, no. I tried to just figure things out organically. So that was a big hiccup in my enjoyment. But when you kind of take a step back and look at the whole experience, I liked it a lot. It's a fantastic game. And I liked a lot of what they did. I do think they can ease a bit on the difficulty curve on some things for if they do another game like this. And some of the systems were a bit overwhelming. But yeah, I mean, I can still say I love the game. It's just ups and downs. I'm not shitting on the game. People are like, he's shitting on the game.
Dude, if you are, you are, but you're not.
I love the game, but the fact is there are some of these things that are frustrations and annoyances, right? So we have to be able to also point those out.
Well, dude, I think that's one of the... I'm gonna reset this webcam. I think one of the problems, especially so... It is weird. First of all, as somebody who didn't work on the game, I don't really have any desire to artificially pretend something is better or something's worse. It just sort of is what it is. And I think that one of the big problems that occurred, in particular with this game, is that a lot of people jumped in just like I did and, played the first elements of it, played the first bits, and we're like, okay, this is, I love this scene. The entire game must be this good. And personally, I feel like it's possible, but it's not what's true with this game. The game is enjoyable, but it's definitely a title that as you continue playing it, you start noticing it. You start noticing little things, and those situations pop up. They start becoming, just more and more noticeable as you go on. I'm going to turn that camera off while I try to fix it.
Yeah, I would say if you split the game in 3/3, the first 2/3 of the game was hitting on all cylinders for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was loving it. Everything was clicking. Really enjoyed it. And up to that point, the more I played, the more I enjoyed it.
Right.
But I would say the final third of the game, both in terms of story, with the gameplay having those difficulties with like needing to grind and stuff, really hampered my enjoyment. So that's why I'm sounding kind of more so on the negative side right now, because that's where I'm at. I'm at the final third.
Right.
But the fact is, when you take a step back, the game is awesome. I really loved it. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's hard to keep the pacing as well, right? In these games.
Well, it's
all
almost,
the way through.
I think it's almost impossible to, at some point, there's always going to be something that goes on with a game that you're not going to love or like. It's what you can deal with or what you accept. I'm almost got this fixed. What you can accept or what you can deal with between, during that time. But for the most part, almost every game is like that. And for whatever reason, people get tight and get uncomfortable with those discussions. And if it genuinely starts to become a situation where really they don't want to talk about the game, they just sort of want to talk about, how anybody who dislikes what they like has an issue. And you're like, no, dude, I genuinely don't have an issue. Like, I'm not waking up in the morning going, man, I can't wait to hate on this game. I just genuinely, this game has issues that I've noticed. And if you don't notice them, that's fine. But I notice them. And that's just, just the way it is.
And honestly, like, people frustrated with the parrying and stuff, it's not even a skill issue. I have friends who are literally challenge runners in games like, Souls and stuff. They do like literally no-hit challenge runs and stuff. And they were complaining about the parrying and inconsistency and,
Yeah.
So I totally get the frustrations. I think it's super valid. That's one of the things they can improve if they do another game. It's make that system a bit more easy to parse. But yeah, man, I loved the voices a lot. It was such a shame that the dialogue was not continuous. And after you mentioned this, I couldn't stop noticing it. The fact that every companion like bonding sequence, you have to keep pressing A to skip through the dialogue.
Yeah, right.
That at some point that became like, it sounds like such a small quibble. But there's something about that grated on me so hard the more you went into it.
The more you did it.
And it got to a point where you also had to go through all of those sequences in order to unlock gameplay things for your power level. And so at some point I actually had to sit through all of those, and it wasn't very enjoyable. I think if there was a way to kind of distribute those a bit more evenly, and definitely have it be just played continuously, would be much better.
I think when it comes down to it also, when we look at this, it's like, dude, I personally, if I liked this a ton, like it was one of my favorite games of all time, let's say, and somebody said, I don't like QTEs, and there's thousands of them in there, I don't see how because I'm not a part of this, I'm not having this conversation currently, but I just don't see how I wouldn't back them up and be like, you know what? I get where you're coming from, because there are a lot. So it's just an unfortunate thing that goes along with game discussion for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. And speaking of, dude, listen to this. So this one is awesome. Zelbinian says, Carrick, you're a piece of shit. Expedition isn't only one of the best games ever made, it's easy for me to put it up there, even with the QTEs, which are incredible. You're stupid, and your dislike for the game made me quit Patreon and quit your Discord and try to refund my donation I gave. The game is perfect, and there is not a thing I would change. I used to trust you. Fuck you. That's over Expedition. That just came in. So what I find so interesting in that is that, first of all, like, trust is a weird thing, especially because if you like a game I don't like and you told me you loved a game and I played it and I didn't like it, I wouldn't be like, oh, I now no longer trust Johnny, you know, whatever.
Friendship over.
Friendship over. But I do find that kind of out of controlness in particular exists around Expedition in particular. And I've often wondered if it's due to its smaller budgetary nature and a little bit of the desire to protect the weaker baby kind of thing, which I get, don't really have an issue with. And I also completely support somebody supporting the Discord and somebody leaving it. Like, to me, I don't quite think they know what I'm going to say. I think they're thinking I'm going to be like, oh my God, please come back. But it's like, no. You definitely wouldn't be happy here and you wouldn't fit in and you probably weren't listening when it comes to like how we deal with game discussion anyway. So it's probably, you know, it's a good thing for you to move on. But I do find it interesting that certain games I've seen this with where, you know, the caveats don't want to get mentioned, like League of Legends. No. Let's go with Rocket League. I'll have friends go, I hate myself for liking Rocket League, and they give me a list of caveats, but they love it. With Expedition and some games in this kind of discussion space, that doesn't almost ever occur. It almost always occurs where any kind of discussion, including if you bring up the idea that the person you're talking to has in the past stated they hated QTEs at all, and maybe even posted about it in your Discord, they'll be like, how dare you bring up my history? And you'll be like, but you're the one who said you hated QTEs of any kind in any game ever, and this is one of the most QTE heavy games of all time, if not maybe. I mean, just looking at the number you do, might be one of the highest, of all time. I mean, that's what it is it's a turn-based game with QTEs for every. It's the bread and butter. But it just exists with this kind of thing, and I think the discussion, that kind of post isn't new, but I have noticed that those posts are more likely if it's not a AAA, if it's like in this AA space, and then there's a JRPG kind of thing. I don't consider this one a JRPG as much as others. I know where they're coming from, but to me, this is still more of a turn-based game that has story that is really FRPG, you know, French role-playing. I mean, it definitely has some stuff going for it that makes it feel better, you know, than I think many JRPGs do. I actually think there are things in this game I like better and they handle better than JRPGs, including voices for everybody. You know, a lot of JRPGs would still do the F to talk, but there wouldn't be voices. You'd be sitting there listening to the same old shit. So, yeah, give and take. It's just a weird thing when it comes to this game in particular. Moving on from there, did you see the GTA 6 trailer?
Yes. I was very impressed by it.
What do you think?
To the point.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I'm trying to fix my light.
I mean, I was going to say it's very hard to tell what was cutscene versus gameplay.
Right.
I mean, the fact that was running in a base PS5, it's awesome to see. I love to see it.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to believe. Not in the sense that I doubt them, but in the sense that, goddamn, I didn't really think it was possible to squeeze that from the console.
Yeah, GTA 6 is... GTA 6 is one of those rare birds that, like GTA 5 was, GTA 4 was, that it shows what is possible or at least what you can deliver in general from something that is very specific, very solid, doesn't change in its functionality at all, and you have the money to take advantage of everything I just said. And that is what, 3 companies in the world? Maybe. Microsoft could do it. They've got the money. A Kickstarter would have the money, like a Star Citizen. Obviously, Rockstar has the money. Sony might have the money, but that's even a big grab for them, because you are talking, so many years that at that point, people change and the people in power change and they decide to pull something, where with Rockstar, they're like, fuck it, let's just keep plugging away. I was really impressed with what I saw. As others have pointed out, it was filmed on a PS5. We don't know if it was a Pro or whatever. And obviously then from that point, we have no clue what's happened. A lot, as we have people who work on trailers in our Discord who've talked about the upscaling or sharpening or post-processing that's done on trailers before they get uploaded, which is sort of normal. But regardless, if you remove the idea of sharpening or anything like that, generally what we saw was the game running. We don't know about AI. AI is one of the big ones. Do you clip AI so that the experience that you're seeing in that particular part is not running AI in the open world? So you get more CPU power, you get more to display. We have no clue. But what I saw looked really good. Great lighting. Dude, when he's driving by the cops, frisking the people on the corner, I was like, damn, that's some good lighting. And they did the lighting in the way that it's almost like they don't care if it looks... So here's what's going to sound weird. It's like they don't care if it's real. And by not caring if it looks real, they've made it look pseudo-real in a game. I know that sounds really weird, but what I mean by that is they didn't copy every single... They didn't really grab a director and throw a director in there. You know how a director would change it? Quentin would have a certain look. Scorsese would have a certain look. GTA has the look of the game engine, right? And there's something about that when you're seeing him drive that car past the cops, you're like, dude. And it's got this lackadaisical. That's the thing about GTA. Other companies would be like, look at our cutscene. GTA's like, we got some extra space. You want to throw a cutscene in there where he's driving by some cops or something? Let's run a spawn and have some cops over here doing some shit, and let's just have him engage with these, or drive by these cops. We also, that must have been a cutscene because we didn't see any other interactivity. If you noticed, it wasn't like a free cam. That was like a full thing where things are controlled and movement is controlled. But I really did like what I saw. Also, what is going on, man? This is one of the first games I've seen where everybody's hairy. And I sort of dig it, man. As somebody who's got arm hair and somebody who's got leg hair and somebody who's got chest hair. And that dude's like, he's got hair everywhere. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck, man? That's pretty cool. So I like it. If you listen to the internet, Carrick sold out. Okay. I just had a forum post where people were like, man, one of the best reviewers ever, but apparently elsewhere on the internet, people don't like me. Guys, it's the internet, man. You're going to find somebody disliking something, or unfortunately and possibly illegally liking something. Don't listen to the internet unless it's me or Johnny. Then completely 100% listen to us. What did you think of the love story bits that they were showing? Because I feel like they were out of order. If you look at the house and the different ways in which it was being built, I think they switched the order a little bit. But what did you think of like the love story, him meeting her, and like did you like how that was portrayed? Are you interested in these two characters?
Yeah. So I think we saw a bit more how they're going to transition into the plateau where the game takes place. So there's always this thing where, like, the story kicks off, there's this sort of urgency to it, but they always figure out a way to extend it so the game can take place, right? Without the, like, tomorrow something's ending type feeling. So I think we got a little bit more context for that. And that works. I think the idea that they are kind of like creating a life together a little bit, it looks like. So there might be sort of ups and downs and stuff like that. I think that's cool. Yeah. we didn't see that much, but that's what I would say is that I'm hoping we're gonna get to see kind of an arc of like a real relationship between them, and not just a snapshot in time of like something going on with the plot, like within a few days, if you know what I mean. So in some way, this is going to take a longer time, and there's going to be.
Yep. You know what it feels like to me, though? So bear with me here. And I read a little of their snippet, and I guessed before I read, I think Rogério or somebody was like, oh, hey, or maybe it was Zombie was like, hey, GTA's got some data on their website. So we went and read this. It really does feel like they're on, like something fell into their laps and they're sort of gone somewhere else to maybe escape the possibility of getting caught in their old place. You know, you see these movies where somebody finds money and they go somewhere else, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's these little bits that I'm having trouble tracking, but I really like, you see her reacting to the dance floor the first time, like a child would react when they're really excited, or a girlfriend if you take her dancing, or if your boyfriend loves dancing. You see the reaction of somebody excited to go to a concert. She was excited in those ways. And then when they met, when she comes out, and in that first jail moment they meet, there's something that definitely to me indicates, and it sort of was hinted on the page, but I feel like, and this is just me, I feel like what this is going to turn into is love gone, not only gone wrong, but definitely on her part, her drive to get something seems like it's going to probably fuck him over. And if you read her bio, it's all about she wants more and more. And if you read his bio, it's like, and maybe meeting her was the best or the worst thing that happened to him. And you're like, okay, I totally can see that. He's carefree. Look at everything he does. He's carefree when he comes off the top of the, what do you call it? You know, off the ladder. He's carefree when he's driving past cops. Everything about him is carefree. She is sometimes, but even when she's dancing or she's doing everything, they've got her almost on that, not crazy girlfriend level. I don't believe that. I didn't see anything like that. But on the level of the more, I would say, the runner of that relationship, and he
more
seems
ambitious, maybe.
What'd you say?
More ambitious, maybe.
More ambitious, like maybe.
Aiming
Yeah.
Higher.
Yeah. And so there's this, like, does that mean she's going to get in trouble and it's all about him saving her? And then, you know, at the very end, does something go bad? Because, you know, that's the other thing. I just got to point this out. It's Rockstar, man. That ain't ending good. Right?
Yeah.
That ain't ending good. Johnny, it's not gonna. Johnny, there's none. Even Bully didn't really end good. None of their games. I mean, I'm surprised their table tennis game didn't end up with one of you guys like being picked up and, you know, sold in North Korea or something like that. There's nothing in their games that ever ends happy. It's not something they do. So when you look at that, now, could they end happy to break the narrative? Absolutely. Will they? I don't think so. I think that's going to go wrong. Bad. Like they were already showing shootouts and stuff, but they still had that 1980s, we're all hopped up on cocaine, so we have no danger kind of actions to everybody. But you know, shit gets serious when your best friend gets skinned in front of you. Like that's going to be a bad day. Like Mafia or Colombian drug lords. Like, is that going to be what happens? You know, because it definitely seems like somebody's after them, but you can't see. It seems like somebody's after them for something they either did or found. So it's hard to know. But, you know, she's already in prison. And then remember the first trailer showed her talking to somebody in prison. And it sounded a little bit at that point like maybe she was going to give up some information. Like, what if she turns on him?
Yeah. At the same time, they're seen riding jet skis and stuff. So there is some, you know, there's plenty of downtime, leisure time. This is what I mean by, I was trying to say, not very articulately, but the fact that you're going to have an expanse of time where there, you know, there's going to be hot action stuff, but there's also going to be downtimes. You know, they're going to have some type of life. I guess they're creating together in the middle of all the craziness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to see. I think, unfortunately, the only bad out of this will be that, you know, for a long time, games will be compared. If they're a third-person open-world game, they'll be compared to this. And it's just, you know, I mean, that's just an uncomfortable place to be in, you know. Not everybody can be Bruce Lee. Ask Chuck Norris what it was like, you know, of the like these situations. Ask every heavyweight who tried to be something during Mike Tyson's time. It took the fall of him personally for them to really achieve anything, because somebody is so they're such in the zeitgeist kind of thing. And I feel like with GTA 6, looks like it's delivering genuinely what we want graphically. We'll have to see if the gameplay holds up. Like, will it have the mini games? Will it feel free? Will it feel open? Will, you know, the atmosphere hit? I think they're really good at doing atmosphere. But then we're going to be left with the idea that every single company in the world is going to be compared, or every single game in the world is going to be compared to these guys. That would suck.
Yeah.
Like, I feel for other devs who are looking at their, you know, True Crime or, you know, Sleeping Dogs or whatever, and they're like, hey, we want to do this. And these guys show up and they drop GTA 6, and you're like, son of a fucking bitch. You know, like at the same, you're playing it and hate masturbating to it because you're just like, I love this. I hate it. I love it. I hate it. Because you're a developer working on it, and you can say you love it all you want, right? We know how that goes. You can say you love it all you want, but ultimately you're still sort of not going to be loving it, because that holding up against you is just, it's rough on the other person. It's like a distinctively very difficult place to be. And you hear it with everybody from musicians to basketball, you know, people who played basketball during like Michael Jordan's time. You'd be like, you know, nobody talks about my game during this particular thing. And you look at the stats and go, wow, they didn't. That's crazy. Like, why didn't they mention that? And you're like, oh yeah, because MJ was in the game, you know. Love the games. $2 super chat. What's your favorite candy bar? Snickers. I like Three Musketeers because it's soft and it's airy and it's easy to eat, and but there's nothing in it. Like, it's all those things. But a Snickers, no joke, they say it really satisfies. I can't say that, but I will say that it really definitely has enough calories in it to give me a boost. Do you eat candy bars?
Not a ton. I like Kinder. The Kinder bars are pretty good.
Kinder bars,
because they're also light, so I can eat those. I like trying to think. There's one called Bounty, which is like coconut. It's a chocolate on the outside, coconut on the inside. Those are pretty good. And then I'd say I like Snickers too, with the vein. Remember, there was a whole thing where like the vein was being removed.
Yeah, Snickers straight up look like a dick vein, man. But I'm telling you right now, I'll chug on that thing. Like when I Snickers, they do satisfy. Long story short, if you're working out, it's probably better to eat that, because it does have some peanuts in it and a big old vein.
Yeah, the peanuts.
Yeah. Oh, dude, and I think I told you this about 6 months ago. I bought one, and like a fucking idiot, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, I'm gonna throw this in the freezer and have it like oh god, fuck, dude, my jaw, I've never heard my jaw crack that loud. I bit into it and it was as hard as a rock, and my jaw, the left side went all the way down to my teeth and the right side did not move, and I heard both jaw joints just go bap, bap, like two pieces of really tender wood at a campfire. I legitimately thought I broke my jaw. I wasn't even thinking. I was like, oh yeah.
What a terrible idea, huh?
I think I'm going to be honest, man. I guess I thought it was going to be harder, but soft and not melt as quick. It was, our freezer's very good. I'll say that much, because that fucking thing was, you could have killed like an elk if you had thrown at an elk or shot it with a slingshot. It was nuts. Ooh, somebody likes Charleston Chew. I was going to end that, but a lot of people wouldn't know what that is. Charleston Chew is one of my old favorites, man. Very plain candy bar. I appreciate the people out there who are eating for effect. Big Mac, ACG, your thoughts on GTA 6, 30 FPS on consoles, but Sony is reportedly working on Pisser 2 to improve 4K 120, locked and offer support for other resolutions. Will increase the FPS on GTA 6. GTA, most games, FPS is going to be dependent on CPU. So while you'll be able to touch up a lower resolution picture, if you're running a ton of effects, that's all GPU. And this game certainly looks like it has a shit ton of effects. I would say on the Pro, if you did 60, you could do a performance mode and possibly see some pisser, but you would really have to have a really good upscaler. Not only that, you would really want a 60 locked, because here's the problem with a GTA game. When you need the FPS, that's when it goes to shit, because you need the FPS, which goes to shit. It's a Mobius strip of game development design. Most of the time when you need the FPS is when you're not getting the FPS. I wouldn't want to be playing GTA and try to aim at somebody when my girlfriend in the game is hurt and I'm trying to cover her and I die 3 times because the FPS adjusts my input latency. So personally, for a game like this and the way it's going, I'm okay with a locked 30 because, number one, Rockstar does that. That's their thing. They can patch in performance if they want, which I think is also fine if they want to do a performance mode. That's a lot. You're asking a lot. I guess it just all depends on what GTA's got going on in its simulation of the world, because every guy is eating a CPU cycle. Every NPC is sucking away the CPU like a vampire, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Pisser can do 1080p, right, to 4K. Like,
I don't know if Pisser has specific resolution requirements for the upscale, but most will want, the higher the resolution that you start at, the better it's going to be. Obviously,
By the way, unfortunate name. I mean, it's
Pisser?
just
yeah, dude. And I swear to God, I didn't know this. Digital Foundry calls it that. 2 other tech YouTubers call it that.
With a straight face.
I mean, it's because it reads. It reads as Pisser.
Yeah.
So no lie, as a joke, we used to, when FSR and DLSS came out, we'd be like this. Are you running? But we knew that FSR made more sense, so you switch. But Pisser, by the way, doesn't work in the same way because it sounds like something we normally say. So piss, take a piss or whatever. So it makes sense that's the way you would say it. But I did not realize everybody called it that separately. I mean, I think everybody who read it legitimately, because I've heard people say, oh, I saw somebody, a tech YouTuber, who people were like, oh, you must watch Digital Foundry. And I talked to that guy like when that thing came out, and I think I was the first one to talk to him, and he was calling it Pisser already. I hadn't even heard of it. He was like, it's PSSR Pisser. And I was like, oh, it is Pisser. But, I said it since the first showing. Pisser. Kigarusi says, Kigarusi. So I'm going to be very excited to see what we got going on here with GTA. I think it's exciting. I think what we've seen in the trailers is somewhat representative of what we'll get. There'll be maybe not a downgrade in the way we assume, because they're very good at that, but I do think that they didn't delay it for a year for no reason. There you go.
Yep.
If they did,
and we didn't see, like you said, we didn't see real free camera,
Yeah, once they show gameplay where a guy's walking around and it's at full 30 locked and he's in the middle of a street and then he jumps on a motorbike and drives around and blah, 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 blah. Then
the random stuff.
All the random stuff, everybody here should remember what GTA 5 was like when the PC got it,
It was very rough.
It was very rough. Let's see. It would be nice if they gave Red Dead 2 a 60 FPS boost. Wait. What?
I think it does have that.
I thought it had an FPS boost.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Doesn't it? Or am I... Dude, I might be smoking
PS5,
some serious...
yes. Unless they're talking about... And I think even PS4 Pro had a 60 mode.
Okay. I thought there was a mode. I mean, I could be wrong. I thought there was a mode, though.
Yeah.
Unless he's talking about something else like the Switch 2. Just joking. Okay, so here we go. Switch 2. Switch 2. GTA 6 on Switch 2. Yes or no? You think it's happening?
Eventually, I think so.
Eventually?
But I don't think day one. I think they're really gonna try to focus it down as much as possible.
The CPUs on those are so minuscule compared to even what's in our current consoles, dude. It's great for a handheld, but damn,
because you can turn down the number of people on the street and stuff.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
To a certain point, right?
What if it's just one? It's you and the other guy. And they just keep, when you kill them, they spawn in a new guy to get you through
It's like Norway in the winter, where nobody's on the street.
Right. A lot of people are not going to know what that means, but I got it. Yeah, I don't think that CPU can do it, but I'll tell you what, I'd love to see him try, and I would love to just see a tech attempt. Here, this will never happen, right? But it would be great. It would be great to see them go, we're not releasing it, but we wanted to see what we could do on the Switch 2 for our future games. Here's what we got GTA to do on, the Switch 2. Even just internally as a tech, like a tech test, a tech demo. Its CPU is, anemic compared to what's going on in normal consoles. But still, I would, it would be awesome to see. And they do have their own DLSS, but again, you still have to worry about your CPUs. At some point, you can't run it on a potato, no matter what. Which is what my camera's running on. So I found out what happened. That fucking camera, that cell phone that I use for the normal webcam absolutely eats battery power. So this thing is I think a 20 or 30 watt charger and plugged into my computer. But it was so hot when I grabbed it, it almost burnt me, which is why I had to turn the camera off because I couldn't even pick it up. Because webcams in particular, or webcam usage in particular, for some reason, cell phones just they get smoky. Yeah, and it killed the battery. The battery was like, I think I had the battery at 40% when we started too. So I probably need a new battery. I need a new phone. This phone is now 7 years old. 6.
Damn.
Sorry, it's a Pixel 3. Yeah. I have a Stylus 2, which is about 9 years, I think, 8 or 9. ACG, about Mind's Eye on Switch 2. Will it happen? And that game, I've heard people saying it's competitive to GTA 6. Do you agree? Mind's Eye is not really a competitor to GTA 6 that I can see. It is an open world or has open world elements, though. And will that be on Switch 2? I think everything's going to aim for Switch 2 other than GTA, or Star Citizen, right? Like those specific games. Woodpit says, my phone gets super hot from YouTube. Yeah, it gets smoky. So got a couple more comments and then we'll answer a question or two and then we're going to jump to Mafia because I want to discuss that. Stickner, Carrick, I guess I agree with you. Saying Expedition is good, but may not be a fit for everyone. I know you like the music and the voices, but the obtuse hitting of the F key to talk killed me. The QTEs I hate in games already, and you just keep doing them forever. Lots to dislike. I lost my train of thought. I just wanted to say I am sorry. I was a dick to you in the last podcast, and I don't know why I was so wrapped up in the game. I think your casualness with positives and negatives sometimes makes me mad. Is that weird? Am I weird? Is this letter weird? Perhaps, but I needed to apologize. What was that? Stickner? Thanks, Stickner. Don't worry about it, man. If people are addicted,
I appreciate
I don't know
self-awareness. He's like, wait.
Yeah, right in the middle of the comedy, he's like, is this weird? It happens, man. Don't worry about it. Like, such is life. Blitzcraft 808 Error says, halfway through Expedition 33 and I can't continue. Story's good. QTE just seems uselessly added. What's one game mechanic that you all felt was randomly in a game that didn't seem to need to be there at all? I want to say something so bad right now about a game that I really like, but that I really hated this one thing. I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say it. No. Yes. Dude, I sincerely do not like the lockpicking in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Sorry. I just got to say it. But it has to be added, and it needs to be there. So that's why I was like, it's not. It's just really taking the piss on
something. It serves a function, but you wouldn't miss it if it wasn't there.
Let's see. One game mechanic. Anybody in chat?
Yeah,
what's
like
a
stealth
game
sections in Spider-Man games, dude.
Dude, yeah.
Never worked
Mary
for me.
Jane sections in Spider-Man is my answer. I feel that whole mechanic
Literally
removed the superhero part and removed even the fact that your entire crux is that you're supposed to be, it's supposed to be hard to save them. And when you're in control, it starts to remove some of that feeling of that. I just don't like them.
Dude, she's taking on entire camps of trained elite mercenaries. Single-handedly.
Elite mercenaries. Stealth Fox 91 says, great review of Dark Ages, Carrick. Recency bias is a thing. That's all. Okay. That is true. Oh,
Yeah.
I see why. I was like, why is he mentioning that now? It's because I had a comment about recency bias at the end of the review. Yeah, that is. I was like, let's see. Aang 2099 says, guys, best rapper, go.
Man,
Whew.
I know so little about rappers. The only one that I followed was Eminem back in my teenage years. And I know
Lyrically,
he's still doing stuff.
Eminem's obviously, like, dude, regardless of any of the other stuff, Eminem's definitely up there lyrically with the ability to turn a phrase. I will say, though, that recently
he was somewhat melodic within the rap stuff.
I just wanted to add, though, that there are times where you're like, listen, we get that you like to put starter cap in every single one of your raps, but at some point, could you move on? You know, like that he has a tendency to like sometimes do that. Best, I liked Too Short for a while. I liked House of Pain. They're not really, well, they're sort of, yeah. Let's see, but who did I really like? I will say LL Cool J did within the last like 6-8 months did a song with Eminem that was good. Now it's hard to know because it's not his normal style and it swayed more towards Eminem style. But I really actually dug that song. I was like, damn, because it's been a while since I've listened to like anything LL Cool J did. You know, he's usually like in a movie or something. Let's see, rap. I'm trying to think of something old school that I like a lot of rappers, man. I don't know if I like any over the top of somebody else, though. Dude, I got to tell you, for pure voice sound, I will say this. I don't know what it is about his voice, but the best voice, as in voice of somebody in rap, that caused me to always go, what the fuck is that? DMX. Dude, his voice... Yeah. Man, it didn't matter what I was doing. So sometimes you'd be like, who is that? With DMX, I could be in another room completely, and DMX would come on and be like, what's DMX singing right now? His voice had, that rah, rah, everything was like, rah. It just had that very particular sound to it, which I really liked. Some people are saying Ice Cube. Okay, that's cool. Body Count, Nas, Del, RZA, KRS-One isn't, as long as somebody's not saying, Runs the Jewels, we're fine. Biggie, I think I've only heard like 1 or 2 songs ever from Biggie and was not a fan at all. Oh, I will say Tupac's got a couple really good. Oh, who sang? The original Colors soundtrack was actually pretty good and had a lot of them. I don't know if they're around anymore. Like most of those guys are probably dead. But good question, man. Good out of the blue question.
And the guy from Linkin Park, what's his name? Michael.
Oh, the one who does the actual rapping part of those songs. Yeah. Some singing now, obviously, but yeah. I was watching some behind the scenes for them doing their new album, and got to admit,
for sure.
First of all, I have no issue with somebody replacing a fucking like singer. I guess people are mad about it. I'm like, dude, whatever. They've got to go on. You replace Guns N' Roses, you replace Axl Rose if you have to. Whatever. You do you. He died. He ain't coming back. It's not happening. Deal with it. I think that it sounds like they did a really good job, and I sort of like their new songs. There's a feel to it that is definitely Linkin Park, but her voice is just way different. But she's quite talented as a singer. They were showing some behind the scenes, and she was singing raw, meaning no instrumentation or anything, and no adjustment of vocals. But I was like, oh damn. She's got a very good voice for that kind of stuff. It's her own thing. And I have no issues with her. I actually think she's cool. Let's see. This person did not put their name. They said, that's a good one, Aang. I also want to know who's the best writer. Top tier writers.
Like
writing
any
books.
Genre, fantasy and stuff?
It can be even a documentary. It can be geopolitics. It can be whatever.
I mean, I know it's a trite, but I do think George Martin is great. His Song of Ice and Fire series is awesome and sadly remains incomplete.
Can I ask you a question? Continue.
Yeah.
Continue. And then I'll ask you, continue.
Okay. I was just gonna name another person for me. Well, you know, I like Brandon Sanderson.
Mhm.
I've talked about him, but I really love Patrick Rothfuss as well. He's done The Name of the Wind, and I think it's the second one is called The Wise Man's
The
Fear.
Wise Man's Fear.
And the third one is still in the works. Each book is a decade, but those books for me are also very, very special.
My question to you was going to be, do you ultimately think George R.R. Martin is a good writer? Or do you think he is a good storyteller? Which they are different. Do you think he is good technically at writing? Have you found yourself technically impressed by his writing prowess, his ability to move sentence to sentence, page to page, that kind of stuff? Or do you find his stories more fruitful for your brain to sort of jump into this world? But because I've read him since fucking God Was a Pup, like old shit he's done. And I've never, ever been impressed with his writing prowess, ever. But I've always been impressed with his ability to tell a story. And there is not anything wrong with that. This kind of shit, in fact, you can get way stuck on the prowess part and not be able to tell your fucking story, right? We've seen that happen multiple times. But I haven't read the Game of Thrones. So, like, I can't speak towards those, and I can't speak towards maybe that's why they're so popular, is because he's got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, because I've read other stuff from him, and I didn't like it nearly as much. I do think that was, you know, he did something special there. It's definitely, I think, his best work. But I think there's something to what you're saying, in that the writing is a bit heavy. You know, it's a bit hard to follow as well, because the way he writes, there are so many names and references coming at you that you're usually just struggling to keep it together as you're reading through those. And then 5 books in, you're reading someone's name that showed up in like book 1,
right,
and was a pleb that now plays a role, and you're you're trying to recall. So it asks a lot of you. I will say he does have a lot of quotable lines between characters that kind of stick with you, and people know this from the show too, because they were very faithful. And so there are certain lines that are that really stick with you. And so in that sense, I think he's good. But he's got, in my opinion, problems with pacing, and some chapters being quite difficult to get through.
How about this? When you look at good storytellers or whatever in video games, is there anybody who's a prolific good storyteller? Or do you follow just the developer? Or do you not care about either? Which, by the way, this is not a trick question. Do you not really care about either, and you're really looking game to game to game, and just because Joe Blow is working on something doesn't mean you would immediately jump to it?
Yeah, I don't really follow specific people. I try to not, because I find that often that makes you be a bit, what is the word? Not dogmatic, but kind of like idolizing people in a certain way. So I'm usually trying to just look at the end product. Even for voice actors, I don't know a lot of names for voice actors and stuff, because I try to not know someone so well that I can recognize them consistently in other games.
It's good.
So I prefer to detach myself a little bit. You know, BioShock, I think, has been one constant, really good, like, writing, right? All the way to Infinite had some really good writing with the with Elizabeth and the plot there. I think that's been, what's his name? Ken Levine. Yeah. So I think he's pretty genius.
Actually, he's my answer. We were discussing this a couple days ago, which is why I wanted to ask you. We were in the chat, and it was like back and forth of who's really an artiste versus, you know, pinky up artiste versus an actual person who delivers a comprehensive or in somewhat digestible storyline across. And so the common people were removed, especially once I said who delivers a, you know, somewhat of a comprehensible storyline. Like, some of the typical names were removed. Ken Levine was legitimately the only one left on the list. And that is not dissing on anybody. we took everybody into account. Fallout writers. We took fucking Life is Strange. We spent like 2 hours, and I was just listing out names, going, "What about this? What about this? What about this person? They did these two." But I would say ultimately, even though I haven't liked every one of his games as much as any of the others, I would say Ken Levine, when I look at just in general, even reaction to like what's going on, he's able to generate a game story, starting, middle, ending that is well done enough that if there is a mystery there, the discussion can be fruitful. When you get a Metal Gear game, many times the discussion cannot be fruitful because people are like, I have no fucking clue, blah, 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 right? And that's not dissing on him. I'm just saying legitimately this is how we broke it down. And weirdly enough, yeah, Ken Levine was the one who stuck on that list. 12387 says, $10 super chat. Hi, my birthday's tomorrow. Was thinking about small things in life that make me happy. Listen to this podcast while on a walk is one of those things. What small things of life make you happy? Thank you very much for the super chat, and happy birthday tomorrow. Enjoy your 17th birthday. We'll just pretend you're 17. Everybody's eternally 17. It's a good time to be. You know, things don't get so serious until you're 18, 17. You still get away with shit, but you know, you still look old enough to get into, you know, a movie you're not supposed to. So small things in life.
Yeah, dude, I mean, I'm all about gratitude about the small things in life. I don't shut up about that stuff. So like, just enjoying a cup of coffee from my great coffee machine that I love, I've used every day. Like something as small as that already, I can sort of feel grateful.
You know what gets me? When I'm really, 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 really thirsty and drinking, whether it be a pop or lemonade or something. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of like just generic water at that time. I usually like if it's a lemonade or a pink lemonade or something after you've worked out. The acid burn, which is a little bit of S&M going on here, but the little bit of sadomasochism, but the acid burn and the quenching of thirst, it makes my brain just go like, motherfucker, when I do it. And a couple days ago, I got done working out and I was so tired and there was just a little bit left. And I remember drinking it, and I tried to like alternate how fast I drank it because I knew I was going to get to the end of the liquid before my thirst was completely satiated. And it was one of those experiences where I was like just sipping on it, going like, oh my God, it's almost gone. It's almost gone. It's almost gone. It was such a good time. Also, I would say whenever you notice that there's just a little extra space in a trash can so you don't have to take it out that night. Sorry.
Yeah, I got
that shit's great. Dude, yeah, when you hammer down a sandwich, I don't like to eat any sandwich or hamburger puffy. And so I hammer down a sandwich. And so when I hammer down a sandwich and I can eat the sandwich normally without breaking my jaw trying to get over a triple, or I smash the shit out of stuff, having, you know, being able to eat that burger and really enjoy it is one of those amazing times. Because your brain, man, when it gets fat, your brain's like, hell yeah. This is the greatest day of my life. I feel like your like brain wakes up every morning and thinks it's the best day of its life until you ruin it. But, you know, what were you saying?
If you have like some nice leftovers and it's in that state of matter that's actually better than when it was originally cooked. It's just sort of consolidated, you know?
Yep.
Perfectly.
Or when like when you're trying to shut a door with your foot and it shuts perfectly instead of almost shutting. We have blinds on our back window, so when you try to shut it, the blinds are like they're a weight. So right when the door tries to shut, they move in, which stops the door from shutting. So even if you slam it, the door almost will never shut. But I figured out the exact way to slam it with my foot when I'm holding stuff for the dogs that shuts the door. And every time it shuts and you hear the click, I'm like, these are the good things in life. I have that Conan
and you
moment.
know, there's something to be said about noticing these small things too, because we automatically notice the bad things. So the times where the door doesn't shut you know, like something doesn't go your way, we automatically notice those very easily. It's just how we are. We notice bad stuff more. So I find that noticing these positive things helps you balance out a bit more and be more in touch with like, you know what? I'm not like an unlucky person. There's good shit happening too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sucks that a lot of times you have to hear a sad story before you go, oh, well, I guess I'm pretty happy. I will say, okay, that we were talking about advice earlier. I do remember my dad telling me, you don't have it as bad as you're pretending. And then he reminded me, he's like, you should occasionally think about what other people are dealing with that have nothing to do with what you're dealing with and compare them, because, you're bitching about having to wake up and mow the lawn or whatever. And he's like, some people, there's no house and no lawn. And I'm not a huge fan of like depression comparing. My illness is worse than your illness. But when it comes to learning and understanding where you are and if things are bad, if you have a pretty good mindset, I think that's highly useful to be like, all right, everybody can have a little bit of like whatever, but if you're seated down in depression like it's a favorite sock and you're not getting out of it, then it's going to cause you more issues. But yeah, I love noticing the little thing. Oh, dude, you know what another little thing is? It sounds so dumb, dude. The buttons on a computer or screen, if they feel good, is sexual as shit. I have a monitor, cheap ass monitor, and the buttons to switch the HDMI.
Ooh.
I
Get
don't.
in there.
Oh, they're soft, but they have a click, and it's like my wife came in. This sounds weird.
It's just like
my wife came in, and I was legitimately going tap it, tap it two, tap it, tap it two, tap tap two, tap it, tap it two. I was making a sound. I was like doing the pattern. She's like, "What in the fuck are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I just really like the button feel on this." There's something. It's almost like a keyboard. When somebody gets a keyboard and they're like, "Oh, I like." It's hard to describe like because you may like a clicky keyboard one second, you may like a soft one the next, right? But that Goldilocks shit on a monitor, it feels so good to hear the. Also, I was talking to you about Doom when you rebound and you hear the boom. There's something about the snick sound of a button that I like. On some keyboards you have the click, but there's some keyboards like membranes or pseudo membranes where you'll push it down, and at the bottom it's almost like, this is going to sound weird because it's not breaking, but it's almost like the world's smallest stick breaking. It's like a tick. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what that triggers in me, but I will sit and fucking make a keyboard no longer work because I will just be like just for hours going like, that is such a great sound. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Real quick, super chat. Sorry. R Green, $10 super chat. GTA detail. I imagine. Let's say you Molotov a house. You get a fire department. Next day, charcoal house. Police tape lines. Days later, demo team. Days later, construction team start building. Think this is possible? Let me think. So, house burns down. If you are not there. If you are not there at the location, is it possible to have that level of destruction and construction? I would say yes, because we have seen it occasionally mimicked in video games, but it's usually a larger construction, like it's something that you see through the game, or base building like we saw, less so, but I'm just going to mention it, in Shadows. Is that possible? Yes. Is it feasible computationally? Like, would you want to see all that stuff built because knowing so few people are going to do it? Probably not. Also, if you can Molotov cocktail one place, then you're going to have players getting in a helicopter and consistently destroying buildings is going to drop your FPS to nil. So a lot of times a developer wouldn't want that in there because you could so easily, especially the way people drive in GTA and the way we fuck around in online, you could so easily destroy so much stuff that it wouldn't make sense. So I would say computationally, yeah, it's possible. But for GTA or something like that, where you're trying to tell a story, if you were to fuck it up, you could ruin the story moment. You could, if you played a story, a guy lived in the house, then you reset the check, the save. By the way, I used to do QA, so this is what I'm thinking. Reset the save, go back, kill or destroy the house so that the guy can't spawn to start the story, or he spawns with a weakness like he doesn't have his items that were in the building if they were located. Yeah, no, probably not. That's a good question though, and that would be awesome. Let's see here. Pipa Man 247, $10 super chat. Just want to pop in and say thank you guys for making the Friday grind tolerable by chatting about gaming. Not always gaming, apparently, but We appreciate it. Not always gaming. We try to stick to gaming, but that's not the way. That's not the way we run. Wizard of Smoke, what's up, Wizard? I just was asking some people why you hadn't been in chat in a while. I know you're busy, but your name did pop up. $2 super chat. Happy Friday, friendos. Happy Mother's Day, moms. Is it Mother's Day?
Not here. I was not tracking this.
I thought it was Sunday. I gotta make a note to call my mom. Damn it. Big Mac says, ACG, what's your take on Jeff Keighley comment on DS2? After 20 hours of Death Stranding 2, I can confidently say Hideo Kojima is set to deliver one of the best games of his career. Well, best games of his career? Possibly. I mean, that's sort of like saying this is the best race of a really slow racer. Just saying. Sorry, that's way too dicky. And I don't mean that. I don't mean that. But I haven't seen that. I don't know anything about Death Stranding 2. 20 hours of See, I don't know, because Jeff Keighley, it's almost like if I listened to something Johnny made, I'd probably be really honest with Johnny, but I would probably make sure I was listening to the music I like. So I would say, yeah, I mean, who knows? It's Jeff Keighley. Nothing against Jeff. I'm just saying he's really good friends with him, and I don't know if they're really super impartial. And he doesn't have to be impartial. So Mother's Day is on Sunday. What about, he says, thank you very much. I appreciate that, everybody. Thank you very much.
Oh, not here in the UK. It's so complicated because almost every country has
different day.
Different, like Father's
Every day is
Day.
Mother's Day to me, man. I'm just joking. Anyway, continue. What day is Mother's Day for you?
It was the 15th of March. Yeah.
For my mom's day, we just basically call.
Do you?
Yeah, we just check.
Hey, Mom. Like, you still alive?
That's what I do. I'm like, sup? You alive? She's like, yeah, I answered the fucking phone, bastard. I'm watching some TV shows. Why'd you call? And I'm like, well, I just want to say I love you. And she's like, I already knew you love me. You said it one time 20 years ago, but I'm watching my show. Quit disproving it. And then she hangs up. I'm just joking. We talk a little bit, not too much. I mean, she's doing her thing. We'll call. We'll probably, I think we got her a gift. Yeah, she doesn't. She used to watch the podcast religiously, but I think she got really tired of the, porn jokes. I'm not even going to say what we got, just in case she randomly listens, because she could.
Yeah.
But we did get her something actually pretty cool. We always get my dad something.
Cool.
Do you guys get your mom anything for Mother's Day, or you just go to dinner?
I can't remember. We did get her something, but I just don't remember what it was. Too long ago.
I always feel bad for Mother's Day, and I try to know when it is so I can call a couple days earlier, then call again to like throw that shake up on them.
Don't feel bad because there's no Child's Day. There's no like Son's Day or Daughter's Day.
Trust me, 17, 18 years of my parents, it was Jeremy's day. All those days. I got away with some shit, and I'm surprised I'm alive. I owe him the occasional call. Trust
me.
But no, I do get what you're saying. That's awesome. Oh, man, that's great. Moving on from there, let's talk about Mafia.
Actually,
let's real quick before we go.
Before we go to Mafia, let's linger on Death Stranding for a moment, because you said you were more interested in this one, much more than the first one.
Very. Yeah.
What are a couple of the things that you think are going to be different here? So there's a bit more combat, right, and stuff?
No. Okay, so this sounds weird, but nothing about the first one interested me. So by de facto reality, I'm immediately more interested in this one than the last one. So if the last one is at a 0, this one is new and not out, so it's immediately at a 1. It doesn't mean I'm at a 10. It's the potential. Yeah. Also, I do think that the cutscenes I saw look crazy. The little Muppet character, the puppet on the one character, like all that kind of stuff. Also, you guys are sitting here telling me, not you guys, people in the podcast are like, it's over. In general,
we can't shut up about.
It's over. Like, Death Stranding's over. What the fuck are they going to do? And that interests me. So Abzy was one of the guys who was straight up just like, I'm much less interested in this one because I feel the first one wrapped up and I'm good with that and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So weirdly enough, that interests me even more because that is not a rare sentiment to at least say they felt like wrapped up things. So to me,
totally.
that makes me more interested. It makes me go like, oh, what things we're going to throw on it. Listen, I am always waiting for the future Kojima game that I can finally like. I liked Phantom Pain. I liked
Metal Gear 3.
Maybe that's so long ago. It might have been 3 that I played.
Yeah.
Snatcher, one of my favorite games of all time, was written by him.
Dude,
by the way, that's a Sega CD game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
And by the way, one of my favorite games of all time. So like,
damn,
of all time. It's old Sega CD. So yeah. What other ones has he made? It's been mostly Metal Gear, right?
I think so. Yeah. The A to B stuff. Does that interest you? Like the main gameplay?
A to B.
Meaning like you're taking packages from point A to point
B. Delivery?
That type of gameplay. Yeah, the delivery, like walking.
It should, right? Because I love that kind of stuff normally. Yeah,
I thought that part
I'm just more interested in too. I'm genuinely interested with it. Yeah, it'll be very cool to possibly go into it without having. I've watched all of 1. I've watched people stream all of 1, and I've watched the Gamers Little Playground video of all of 1, and still you're like, okay, so all right, well that's a thing.
Well, that it's not just me. Because like I said, it feels like a hazy dream in the past. Like it made sense at the time and then immediately stopped making sense.
It feels like every time that story is told, there should be a lava lamp and a heavy, damp smell in the room. Little stinky weed going on. And you're like, your friend starts talking and then it gets late at night and they start not making sense.
It's all stranded.
It's all stranded all the way
down.
It's all strands.
All the way down.
Big Mac, did you guys talk about Digital Foundry estimating the PS6 will feature at least 24 gigs of RAM to enable new machine learning features? No. I mean, PS6 and fucking Xbox are definitely going to have machine learning stuff on them for sure. But yeah, who knows? They're just an APU that they adjust. So I have no real interest in seeing them until we do, because I also think they're going to be in so many different forms. Dude, we're going to have handhelds. We've already got handhelds now, but we're going to get handhelds from these guys. We're going to get maybe a Portal Good is what I'd call it. If I released a new one, I'd be like, this is the PlayStation Portal Good, meaning this one actually is useful. The Portal Good. So I'm excited to see what happens, but I'm no bated breath here. Mafia? We on Mafia?
Yes.
Dude, so genuinely, I'm actually pretty excited for Mafia, man.
Dude, yeah. August 8th.
Yeah.
And I think it's a $50 price point.
It's a $50 price point. Yeah, it's a $50 price point. It also shows you what gameplay looks like in a game. It wasn't like GTA's where you were just constantly like, oh, what is this? Is this gameplay? Is this cutscene? I do like that Mafia was just like, this is the game being played. So you saw the stealth, which we're seeing now. You see the combat, you see the walking around, you see the bit of jank that's going to exist in any game when you finally start playing it. He's driving around in those old-timey fucking cars, probably, oil leaking out the bottom of that thing. I love it. I love what I saw.
I love that. Yeah.
Dude, I've liked all the Mafias. Mafia 3 I liked for the first couple hours with Donovan, and it got repetitious, but I like the Mafia games. Genuinely like them.
They do story really well. Like
Absolutely.
Mafia 1 and 2 are the ones that I've played, but in those the story was phenomenal, kind of starting to end.
Yep. Yeah, there's something about Mafia that time frame that's interesting. LA Noire, which is not exactly overlapping, but the old-timey stuff.
Like you said, the old cars.
Yeah, when you have a high-speed chase at 37 miles an hour, where you could get out of the car.
The cars barely turn.
Cars barely, they're on the bicycle wheels, and you're like, dude, that's the way to do it. That's back when people were hard. Yeah, I love the idea of it. I actually think that Mafia in general is one of my it's not like a favorite series of mine. It's just that they've been quality. Okay, let me explain that. 3, it's I didn't like it when it came out, and I still think it's got a rash of technical issues that'll never be fixed. But on the other hand, the first 8 or 10 hours of that game and Donovan and all those characters, I was like, dude, and he's got nom vision, so he can see where the enemies are. It doesn't matter. They just make shit up. And I really had a good time. I was like, oh, fuck. And then, is one to do it.
It would be funny if nom vision was actually a mix of detecting where people are, plus also being paranoid about people who are not there because of your PTSD. Shit? So you would be like, oh, that's an enemy, but then you realize, no.
And you have to go to the therapist to lower the one and not the other. You just have to sit there and talk into your microphone and explain your problems.
Yeah.
Real quick, Steven also asked, ACG, any games similar to Disco Elysium or Pentiment? Something about the atmosphere of those games? Those are completely just separate games. But if you mean super story detailed or super story driven like that, Life is Strange, but it's set up in the Telltale style. What are the games like Disco Elysium? We've had this discussion and a couple have popped up, but I don't remember off the top of my head. That's a hard pull right now.
Yeah, there are some really good
the cyberpunk one though. The cyberpunk one that's dystopian that Bitlerist always talks about, and it's a choose your own adventure. It's super deep. It's like you're on a spaceship in this new one. It's all cyberpunk looking. It's got like blocks of text, and then you can hack, you can do all this stuff. You have dice that you roll. It is called.
Oh yeah. I played this.
What the hell? I can't remember the name of it. Citizen Sleeper 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
1 and 2.
And then Detroit Become Human. Oregon Fresh just fucking nailed it. Or dude, Detroit Become Human looks good too. That game is fucking. That game's story is good.
You can boot that up right now and
you could play that right now.
Be impressed.
You could turn that game on right now if it was new. Nobody had heard of it, and it would be like, this is a brand new game, and it would pass the sniff test. Yeah.
The sniff test.
Norco is another one. The sniff. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
What's this smell like? Does this smell off to me? Smell like a new disc or not? Yeah, dude. Detroit is amazing.
I still remember the main menu was the face of like this android lady.
Yes,
and it was creepy how. Uncanny Valley it was.
They did such a good job. Back to Mafia, though, for a bit, so that we can give them a little bit of shine. I don't know why the Borderlands icon's coming up, but I apologize for that. It's coming up, and it's over on the left here. Let me pop that off. There we go. Yeah, so with Mafia, I personally am very excited for the new Mafia. I think going back also separates them from everybody else. No, people are doing modern. They're doing noir. Maybe that's rare. We're not seeing that as much. You're doing futuristic. You're doing, all this kind of stuff. You're doing gangs. These guys are like, we're going to the original location. It's going to be in Sicily. It's like, all I can think about is, the plateaus and the fucking grapevines and like people getting murdered and old style violence with like a revolver. So, you only got 6 shots. You better make sure they count. I'm excited for that one. I actually think that one's going to be good. I mean, I hope it.
Yeah,
I will say the gameplay looked current, meaning it was a little janky. It was, it didn't have. It's early, but it didn't. Some of the animations and stuff were like, this is a game from a current day.
Sure.
It didn't look again. I just want to point that out that unfortunately it's going to be compared to GTA regardless. And you see that. But did you see him riding horses and firing like his gun at people? There's a horse ride thing. And I was like, ooh,
looked good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of it looked a bit clunky, but in the same way that I would say Indiana Jones looked clunky at times, but it was still a fantastic game and overall looked great.
Absolutely.
So
agreed.
I still think,
Absolutely agreed. And damn, you couldn't be closer to the truth when you say that game looked clunky. Whenever you swung that fucking that whip,
definitely,
and you just saw the animation and you were like, what is this? You know, it always looked a little bit like it was going to fall apart, and it just didn't. It did matter. It would have been great if it hadn't. But regardless, it was still, Indy did a good job. Story, plot, puzzles were great. Every place was a puzzle. The Vatican, who was it? I can't remember who it was, but somebody in, maybe it was in the Patreon, not in Discord. Somebody DM'd me and was like, dude, I have now spent like 7 hours in the Vatican. I'm like, the first level? Doing what? I know there's puzzles in there, but like I moved on at some point. Like I've just been exploring every bit, reading everything, you know. Virtual tourism at that point, which is, I think, is awesome.
Yeah.
Sort of sexy. But yeah, dude, I don't know. Mafia, we'll have to see if it's got that same jank, but still turns out to feel, you know, ultimately something like what we'll love. I think the price point is very smart also. So there's a psychological thing there of saying, okay, we can go at the normal price point, make $10 more, or we can be known as a company that didn't and hopefully get some good tidings from just doing the price that's current or $10 cheaper. It's a very smart move.
Yep.
They're not on Game Pass or anything, are they?
No, they've never been that I know of.
All right. So no Game Pass. It's just going to be PlayStation, Xbox, PC, right? No Switch 2. They didn't announce Switch 2 or anything, did they?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything from Switch 2 and nothing about Game Pass, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited for it. I think it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
I do wonder how the what do you call it? Like how it'll work overall when it comes to its performance and stuff, because I don't know. I don't remember the engine they're using. I believe it's Unreal. Is it Unreal? Yeah, it's Unreal.
I'm not
right?
sure. I
think it's Unreal. Yeah. We'll just have to see. But is anybody in chat actually interested in Mafia? I see some people are. I think with Mafia, it's just one of those games that like some people are going to be, you know, absolutely up in arms and can't wait to play it. And other people are just going to look at its time frame and be like, seriously?
Yeah, some people are not into just, into the setting. That's true.
Mafia game might be a little on the shorter side. Did they say that? Because I mean,
good. I don't know, but honestly,
horse riding,
I'm
cars driving around.
Yeah,
I feel like it's
packed. I think
it's packed. Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you this, Johnny. I come to you and I'm like, I have a very good third-person action adventure, open world, open Sicily.
There's
game.
a butt coming.
There's a butt. There's a lot of butts coming, and all of them are from Expedition 33. Because damn. But no, seriously. How long is long enough? What do you want that game to be? What's the minimum that you want from that style of game?
Mm-hmm.
Hours wise.
Well, I think at the very least, something like 20 hours. Because you got to spend some time.
You mean,
we're talking about like a. Oh,
damn. That's
are
good.
We talking about like a story-driven?
We are, but I honestly expect you to say, I don't know why. I have no clue. I expect you to say 6 or 8. So I'm with you.
Here's why.
Go for it.
Because I have a specific reason for that. Is that in all of those games, the main thread that keeps me interested most often is the dynamics between the characters, the friendship, the sort of loyalty and camaraderie and stuff like that, that then allows them to, surpass the challenges and stuff like that. So it's that sort of noble thing that I find time after time works to keep me interested, which is why Expedition didn't work completely for me. But either way, I think you need a minimum of time spent with the characters to get that feeling of normalcy, of like,
I completely
here's
understand.
Another day at the bonfire. I'm cooking my shitty noodles. We got our banter. We got our... You could do it in 10 if you got a lot of exposition too. It also depends, like, how gameplay heavy are you?
I love the idea of what you're talking about with in a weird way, you need normalcy, because when you break it, that's what's going to matter. That's what's going to shift you away. So it'll probably start out chaotic, and then things sort of get shifted, and maybe you start getting your crime group together or whatever. Without the normalcy, even with a cutscene, this doesn't work. It needs to be gameplay, like you're doing here, you're picking some grapes from vines, whatever, you're having a party at your house, a big gala, and everybody comes over, and things may work out, they may not work out, there might be characters who you're not getting along with, but you pick up on them. That once that's broken, it can't just be in the story, because if it's just in the story, you and anybody goes, sure, you told me 6 months passed, but only 37 minutes in controller time has passed. And we as humans, you still do need that roteness to then feel the shock when it changes. And so I like the idea of 20. I think that's fucking awesome. I would agree that 20 to 25 is great, as long as it's not just a ton of cutscenes. Like, I would love, I don't know how they'll do it at all, but I would love for them to have, you taking care of your businesses on the side, maybe a relationship. I will also say straight up, this is straight up not a lie. Some of the best facial animations I've seen in a trailer in my life. If you go look at Mafia, they're fighting and they're talking. That is some of the best mocap I've ever. I mean, that was legitimately on a small screen on a cell phone, where I was like, I don't think I saw what I saw. I think I must just be assuming there's a squint going on. So I went and watched it on the TV, the 65-inch TV, and they showed the facial animations and the emotions. Holy shit, they nailed that. Damn. That alone will help, because you're telling a story about, what's probably going to be ultimate betrayal. Somebody dying at the end.
We just know it.
I want to, if you're going to show it, I need to see it. And to give you a case in point where that doesn't work, Until Dawn hurt itself, because at times they were trying to show somebody in pain or whatever, and they did a very good job normally, but a lot of times it didn't have the fidelity, and so they'd be like, and you're all, I think that person's in pain.
You couldn't tell if they're constipated or what's going on.
Just like an orgasm looks like pain or pleasure, you can't tell. Yeah, that in a video game, I need to know that person is like in pain. Or maybe not smiling when they're dying, which we've seen in movies where somebody gets stabbed and they smile because they have an ultimate plan, and that tells you so much about a character. If they face oblivion and they have a smile on their face, you're like, shit, I shouldn't have killed him. I should have tortured him more. Like, I think I just ended a quest line. I'm not saying I've killed anybody. I'm just saying if I did, that's what I would think. Facial animations in Mafia, though, look awesome.
This video is gonna get demonetized because you've said facial 4 or 5 times in a row.
Or what's the other one that people randomly have now picked up? Glaze, which I knew the moment I heard it, man. I was like, oh, come on. It's the new, you're ruining. Now when I go in and get a donut, I have to be like, can I get the one that
with
the coating that is for sure just sugar, please? And everybody's looking at me like,
oh, you mean the glaze?
No, not the glaze one. Mafia looks awesome. Super excited for that one. I think.
By the way, are you a glaze on donut kind of guy or glaze off?
Man, I was like, this is gonna get risky, because I'd answer that. I like old-fashioned donuts, is what they're called here in America, and they are
filled ones.
No, they are a normal donut that's crispified, and then they are coated with a sugar cake, hard cake. They are glazed in that way, and they are called old-fashioned, which really, let's be honest, an old-fashioned donut really is probably just a donut that tastes like fucking terrible, right? Like if you went old-fashioned donuts, they probably tasted like,
version.
Just a little bit of salt and shoe leather. But these are called old fashions, and man, I can eat those. I also found a company here that sells ones called Coconut Crunch, and they have these chips on them. I don't like coconut, but for whatever reason, the texture, as you can tell with my button pressing discussion, there's something about it. When I bite into it and I hear the thing go, And by the way, that's why I like raspberries and blackberries, because they have the baby seeds in them. And when you eat a blackberry and that little seed, and you're like, there's something about it I just fucking love. Wizard of Smoke. I'm not even reading that.
Well,
I'm not reading that.
I'm sure it was innocent.
Okay, we'll just move on.
About donuts. Yep, it's all good.
Scott says, LA Noire was the game that facial animations pissed me off. Doubt. Dude. It's so funny because they talk that, and I love LA Noire. I love it. The Walking the Walk I did on it was really enjoyable. It was one of those games. It's a light open world. But Jesus Christ, man. I mean, I don't know. The guy, you'd ask somebody a question and be like, no, I do not have that. And you're looking at it going, okay, is this a moment where they're not supposed to give me any data because they didn't do anything? Or they'll be all, no. And you're like, guilty. And they're like, nope, they were for sure not guilty. You're like, dude, they're doing everything that a guilty person does. Like, oh, God, that was hard. I know a lot of people who read guides on that.
Sense
it didn't.
Based on what they did. Yeah.
It didn't. That sucks. Lucidin says the biggest tragedy of modern life is grapes with no seeds. We have big green grapes here that don't have seeds. We have red grapes, but they have massive seeds. I don't know which one he's talking about. Do you eat green grapes or red grapes? I like the big old green ones. I like them both,
but I don't mind if they don't have seeds. I mean, I just spit out the seed. It's not like I'm eating that thing. So.
You ever eaten a pomegranate? The puzzle network of fruits.
Oh, dude. Yeah, it's such a pain to...
Yes, but so good. Like,
they are good, yes.
Your parents come home and it looks like a murder scene because there's fucking red blood juice all over your face. Your hands are stained red. You've got some pulpy thing in front of you you've torn open like
you're tired, caveman. Because like the whole thing takes...
Yes, you're like passed out on the couch covered in blood. There's a paper bag that you started putting the seeds in, but then after a while you gave up because it was too much energy. Dude, pomegranates, my mom and dad would just come in and be like, he's way too energetic today. And they would buy pomegranates and just put a show on and give me a pomegranate. And like a monkey, I would pick at that thing until every last one. Pomegranates are amazing fruits. They could slow down an entire civilization if that's all you had. Nobody would succeed at anything. They'd just be trying to get that last pomegranate seed. Oh, they're so good. I didn't eat the seeds though. I think that would give you a stomach ache.
Yeah,
no, that would.
The crunch was nice, but yeah.
Lucitin says, "What? You don't eat the seeds?"
I think it really depends. If you get the ones that are really small, you can for sure eat it. But
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be pounding down a ton of seeds just because, Yeah.
I just had the silliest image of like a pomegranate tree growing out of you, like.
One gets stuck in the fold of like a stomach fold, and there's just enough nutrients there to grow. And for like weeks, you're like, man, I gotta
finds a bit of leverage there.
I've got a rib pointer here, man. It just always hurts a little bit. You finally go into the doctor and they're like, you have palmatitis. And you're like, what the fuck is that? And they're like, well, that's where a pomegranate seed grows out of your gut, dumbass. Quit swallowing the seeds. Yeah, no. I did used to eat apple cores. And that was mostly just because there's always something on the, it always tasted a little bit. I would spit out the seeds because, you could eat it. There's the old story about you shouldn't eat them because they have cyanide in them, whatever. But overall, you can still eat them. We used to eat the core. I mean, once I saw a donkey do it, which sounds like the world's worst fucking life advice.
Bro, as a kid, I was so afraid of the apple core that I would eat like just the...
Oh, damn. You're a nibbler.
Surface.
Apple
I would just nibble.
Really?
Nibble all around it. Yeah. Like 80% of that thing was still left on it.
We had a green apple tree and we had prunes. And I can tell you honestly, both of those things through a young kid's stomach, when they ate too many, was such a disaster. We would never wait for the prunes to be ripe. So they were always a little hard, which would make you so sick. And then green apples, they taste so good. And they're a little bitter, very sour. And I would be out there with Jason, my friend at the time, who lived in our neighborhood, and we would just be fucking like monkeys, man. We just
Mainstreaming
move from one branch to the other like monkeys. And we would pound so many green apples. And I remember my mom would come down. She would see the apple cores at the bottom of the tree and be like, Jeremy, did you eat all those apples? And I'd be like, no, I mean, I'm still up in the tree. Like, there's nobody else who ate those fucking things.
There's no plausible deniability in the situation.
And then that night, you'd be laying down, and it'd be like 5-6 hours later, and you'd just hear that as your stomach is like, sorry, buddy, but it's time. Fuck. Anyway, back to games. What else do we got for game news? What do we got in the old Chataloony? Do we have any Discord questions?
Let me check.
We're like Discord. We forgot all about this. We're too busy fucking around.
Yes, we do have some stuff.
Go for it. I'm ready.
I did note down before we get into questions that Remedy talked about their next single player game they're making. And the CEO said it's a bit lower budget compared to Alan Wake 2.
I saw that. Control 2, I think, is what they were talking about in particular.
Control 2.
Yeah.
I mean, for a game like that, I still feel like that's fine.
Oh, I don't think it impacts control
and quality of the game.
No, yeah. I think what they were legitimately just trying to say was, number one, Alan Wake 2 probably cost by the time it was done a lot of money. They brought in the lady from Star Wars Battlefront 2. She was in Arrow 2. Well, she's in later. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but they brought in other characters, other actresses and actors. They had the big scene thing that I won't talk about that probably costs a lot of money. I think, in all honesty, just their understanding of control and how it's done, I wouldn't doubt if it was cheaper. I don't think they were trying to say we're actively spending less and we're doing less than Control 1. I think they were just legitimately sort of explaining that don't worry about our finances as much because the next game we're doing isn't going to be as over the top as Alan Wake 2. I could be wrong on that. That's how I read it.
Yeah, cool. And then the other thing I saw is Diablo 4 has Berserk crossover. So I don't know if you're familiar with Berserk.
I am familiar very with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a bunch of cosmetics that are coming in and they are worth $150.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to, so it's class skins plus a horse skin. And if you want to buy those, the way it works is you have to buy the platinum currency.
Mm-hmm.
And the minimum you have to buy to be able to afford those things is $150.
Damn.
So I saw this posted, and while it's a lot of money, right, when you look at it that way, the way I look at it is if I love a game and I'm playing the crap out of it, and they release skins of like one of my favorite, let's say like dark fantasy stories or whatever,
mm-hmm.
I would be happy to pay, let's say, forget about the whole thing, but maybe one skin, right? One skin, like $24 for one skin. If it's awesome,
right,
I would be happy to pay for that. And in a way, I dislike it when people are shitting on a game for putting out stuff like this, because for some people, it can be a great thing. You know, it can, if they spend a lot of time in the game and it's something they're really gonna enjoy. Again, you don't have to buy the full 150. You can buy one skin, and I'm okay with that. It's totally optional. I don't view this as a stick to hit the company with. I think it's just something that's there for people who really like the game or want to support the game or like Berserk.
And what game is this, did you say again?
Diablo 4.
Yeah, I really can't. I mean, I don't know Diablo 4's current monetary status, like how they do micros or anything. As long as people aren't worried that somehow it's going to, adjust the trajectory of how they're doing things, like if everything's going to be an IP, so therefore everything's going to be more expensive or whatever. I don't know enough about Diablo to talk expertly about it, but I don't see anything. I think Berserk, especially, I played the Dreamcast game and then I watched some of the anime, and I think Berserk weirdly fits with Diablo just because of the weapon he uses. And see, I don't know the other characters. I'm sure it won't be one skin, but I guess in general, I don't mind it. I think overall, if you say microtransactions, no matter what, though, you're going to get some feedback that's negative. So
for sure, and I totally get like people in chat are saying it's not worth $24. Totally get it. It's not for you. But if you are a
long-term player and you also like
you are the Andy for whom this has been designed, and for you it's like, dude, for $24 I get to play as this thing that really excites me, and I get to spend a bunch of time in there. Who are we to say that's a bad thing? You know, it's all optional.
It's also not cosmetic. Day one, which is nice. You know, I'm actually, when a game's been around for a while, if they want to throw some of that stuff in. When I asked everybody how their week was going and opened up the separate chat, I did get some comments. Javier says, I'm doing good. I'm learning game dev stuff aside from 3D animation. I do as well. 3D animation would be fun to get into. That's a job that feels like it's just be so technical, man. Let's see.
Yeah.
Diablo. That's crazy talk. One skin ain't worth half the price of the game. Oh, is it $24 for a single skin?
That's what I read. Yes. So like for one class, for each class, it's $24. Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It is quite a bit, admittedly. I haven't seen the skins, by the way. I don't know if they're like either amazing or terrible. So that depends too. It would have to be a really good damn skin for me to spend 24 personally. But again, maybe it's just not for me.
$24 for a single skin?
Think about this. Okay, what's a game you return to, like the Division 2?
Yeah.
What if they release
$4.99
of?
That's the max I would spend on any skin.
Really?
By far, yeah. By the way, if you told me you spent $300, other than teasing the fuck out of you, I wouldn't in no way, shape, or form say that you can't spend your $300, especially on Division where I've got my money out of it. I've got my time. I just think $24 is a lot of money. I mean, that is just a lot of money. I'm not going to say, oh, it's a game. It's I could buy a game with that.
It is. I agree with you.
That's, dude, at this point, I would just buy a bunch of Snickers bars. Like, if I was going to buy the only thing I like. But for $24, that skin better be, I don't even know how to describe it. I think $24 is something. I thought you meant the pack was 24, like maybe 5 for 24.
The pack is first of all, there's no pack in which you can buy all of them.
Right.
You have to buy them all separately with the currency. And the cheapest you can, if you want to buy all of them, the cheapest is $150.
I thought you meant it included the game and all the seasons, and then it was like a Berserk packer.
And there is no Berserk pack where like you get everything at a discounted price. So I agree with you. It is like kind of crazy. Yeah.
I guess it would also have to be a game I went into. So Division's probably one of the highest games I've returned to with friends in here or just on my own because I'm, just hanging out. $24 though. And I'm looking at my ass the entire time. Like I'm looking at the characters. So like what I mean is I would see that skin up close, which Diablo you may not, you're looking top down or isometric top down. That's a lot of money for me. But again, no, that's a lot of money for a single skin. That's ridiculous. Like I don't quite understand how that pricing even makes sense in their current pricing. Cause I like I said at the starting, I don't know their pricing. If their pricing is $19 right now for another skin, and for some reason their consumers are accustomed to it, I still don't. It's just a lot of money.
No, it's quite high. Yeah. I think that's the price I paid for I believe it's called the Battle Pass, which was kind of like a season where
with some stuff
by playing you're unlocking stuff in the pass, right? Cosmetics and things. So in that you would get several cosmetics as a point of reference for, I think, the same price as one skin.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wonder why it's so expensive. Like if ignoring that it is. because we can. I ain't gonna get it. But ignoring that it is, I always like to look at the how did $24 get past everybody as a decision?
I will say, in League of Legends, you already had skins that were up to around like $20, $24. And then recently they've started with these like gacha skins, which is, here's a box. What you buy is the box, and you have like a whatever 0.5 chance of rolling this new amazing skin we released. And the rub is eventually you're guaranteed to get it if you buy enough boxes, but you have to buy so many that comes up to $250, I think, for you to guarantee you're going to get that skin. So effectively they're selling you a $250 skin. And
I'm just mad because I just don't know enough about it. I do know enough about it, actually. And I'm mad about it still because I don't care about the small differences. I am still mad that gacha is acceptable, but loot boxes and the legalities behind it. It doesn't matter. That bothers me, but it also shows the somewhat, I guess you would say, short-sightedness of how we fight things, where it's like, we're going to instantly fight this one thing, and you fight that one thing, and you turn around, and everybody's okay with this other thing because they spent, it's like after sex, post-coitus fucking relaxation, they're not jumping on the other thing. And you're like, dude, what about that? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, you guys need to learn to fucking temper your energy a little bit and maybe come up with an idea that sort of is all-encompassing. That I just don't think gacha is much different. It is slightly different, but like the fucking issues with loot boxes and all that kind of stuff it seems like it's just going to be around forever. And so a company like this says, fuck it, we're not going to do a loot box and we're not going to do a gacha, but we're going to charge you $24 for the skin. That's
yeah. I think the gacha stuff,
that's the world we live in.
I refuse to like support. Doesn't matter how cool the skin is or whatever. With the $24, I can potentially imagine something that's super awesome, and
I think
something
gacha,
that I like.
the one, isn't it true though that gacha, like, I was watching Reg. It's like you can play and get some of them, or you can buy. I guess it's the same thing you're explaining. You buy it, and your chances of getting it.
Yeah, it's pretty much loot boxes. Yeah, so you're buying loot boxes. That's it. And it's just that if you buy enough, you're guaranteed to get one. This special skin that they released. But you have to buy so many that, again, it adds up to like $250.
Rogerio says, I wonder if there's any study regarding prices of skins. Like, they know most people won't buy regardless of the price, so they raise it because those that will buy it. Absolutely, by the way. Not only is there a couple studies, there are very in-depth studies towards the opposite end now of where we're going, which is no longer assuming utility and good savings, but going towards luxury items. So when you sell somebody something for $25, weirdly enough, many people will look at that and say, it must be worth it. I had a old tier on the Patreon. It was quite high. I still have a couple high ones for helping YouTubers. This one was quite high. And I got, surprisingly, a number of people going into that level. And it encompassed something that was slightly to the side. So I thought that's what it was. And weirdly enough, most of those people just wanted the same thing that everybody in the Discord was already getting, which is just to get into the Discord. But that price point meant something to them. So admittedly, I waited till it was empty and I deleted it because I was like, I don't like that. It just feels like you're the Ferrari of, of these skins, where it's like we're no longer going towards utility or savings anymore. We're going towards, hey, this is a luxury item. Look how cool, look how much I spent. Because a lot of people are like that, man. A lot of people will tell you how much they spent on an NBA game, not only without batting an eyelid, but sort of in a weird,
like a badge of
digital brag. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. Just different folks, different ages, different ways in which people grew up. I certainly can't say that my nephew buys the same way as I do because he grew up with a cell phone in his hand. And so, and I didn't. So my choices and how I get to the choice of buying something is still different than his. So, you know,
Yeah.
and in 10 years, he even told, the last time I talked to him at least, he was already chafing at the people 10 years younger to him and how they were going about things. So it's like, that's the way it is, right? Everybody is fighting against cars replacing horses. But in the end, they both, there's a way that they all sort of, you know, find their little niche. And I would not doubt if $24 is just there to be like, hey man, you like Berserk? It probably does a title banner too. I would assume it on your name. So that,
sure.
you know
I'm
what I
sure.
mean? So it's like, hey, when I
Yep.
join a lobby or whatever, look how cool I am. I've got the Berserk, you know. Oh, by the way,
And
do
they
you
know anime fans will pay for
do you know
stuff.
how I know that works, Johnny? Randomly, I added a banner in Discord to the back of my name in our Discord. And within 15 minutes, I already had 5 DMs where people are like, whoa, how'd you get the cool banner in your name? And I'm like, oh, well, I think it's $4 is what I bought it for. I just wanted it so I could see my name quicker. And now I can't because a bunch of people have banners. I was using it. No lie. I was using it so I could see if it showed me. Go ahead.
The funniest thing is that I too bought a banner for that reason because in my server I wanted to, you know,
You wanted you
see
just
myself.
yes, see yourself easier and go, okay, I am
identify,
showing.
like-
Yep,
Yeah.
dude, that's so funny.
The funny thing is that I bought the same exact banner that you bought.
Well, it's because it's the only good looking banner. I think.
It's
Here's what I think also the nefariousness of this. And we've had this discussion in my prior job. Makes 6 or 7 shitty banners, make 2 that are pretty good, make 1 that's awesome, and then release them all at one time. But then about a month or 2 later, do the same thing so that there's ultimately a couple really cool banners that make people go, oh, whoa, and you will get more purchases. It's
the illusion of choice.
It's the illusion of choice filtered down so nihilistically that you can legitimately talk to somebody and they can tell you the percentage of chance somebody will buy that banner or that somebody will get this thing. You know, it's...
Yeah. I gotta hit the toilet real
Go
quick.
ahead.
Give me 1 minute. Be right back.
1 minute? I don't know, guys. I feel like 1 minute is not a long time for him. Let's continue. I don't need Johnny. I'm just joking, Johnny. I need you. All right, let's go through some of the questions that we've got in the Discord and let's discuss. Zaxby, what is a game you played with the best looking food? For me, Pokemon Sword Shield come to mind, and also a Monster Hunter. How about that burger from the intro of Resident Evil 2 Remake? The burger from the Resident Evil 2 Remake almost made me sick because it did look so real, and that dude is just wolfing on that thing like your uncomfortable friend that doesn't know that like eating and talking isn't really the coolest thing in the world. That was disgusting, but it looked real. Dragon's Dogma was real, so I think that's a cheat. So I will go with Final Fantasy. No. I will go with Monster Hunter Worlds. Monster Hunter I think it was Monster Hunter. Oh, you know what else looked amazing? Final Fantasy, the boy band one. What is that, 15 now? Final Fantasy 15. I think there was a trout or something. You guys know me, I don't like seafood. And I saw whatever seafood it was, and I remember going like, whoa. And that indicated to me it was done quite well. Poe B Jam says, what was your first job? I was a mascot at a local amusement park. And by the way, kids are fucking mean to mascots. Poe Jam. I was never mean to a mascot, but I could absolutely see being a kid and kicking a mascot to see if they could feel it through that clothing. It was the first job I ever had. I hauled steel for our neighbor. Our neighbor, he wanted somebody young who could, lift heavy objects, and my mom and dad wanted me basically out of the house during the summer. And I think, in all honesty, at that point, I was probably costing a ton. I definitely was powerlifting then. So this neighbor came down and was like, do you want to haul steel with me? Now, I don't know what I thought he meant by hauling steel, but basically it was like a fucking Donkey Kong game where you were consistently leaping out of the way, getting smashed. What it was we had a massive mill in my town and they had a scrap yard. And he would go to the scrapyard and he would identify metal. He was a very smart man. He was well ahead of the curve for what you hear with like people collecting copper and wire and stuff like that. So what he did was he hired me at an insanely good price. This is pre-2000, and I believe it was $25 an hour. So back then, that was an immense amount of money. I would get 4 to 8 hours a day. And he had a manual winch on the back of this fucking, what was that? That was a full-ton truck, right? It was a dually. I believe that was that was a dually, I think. So we would go, he would identify the metal, he would cut it, whether it be welders or whatever he had, and then we would basically take the steel, we would put a giant cable around it, then put a chain after the cable pulled the chain around it, and you would usually post a couple holes in there, cut a couple holes in there, throw those spare holes into the back, and then rig a chain around it. And I remember the first time we did it, I think it was like 2 or 3 chain links, and we pulled this thing up and that chain broke. First time, almost smashed my foot. And I remember we were talking about steel-toed boots and stuff, and he was talking about, the safety of steel-toed boots. And he was telling me a story where one of the first times he went out with his family members at the time. His wife had recently passed away. It was with her. And they had gone out, and a piece of metal had fallen on her foot. And luckily, she had steel-toed boots, which you will hear some steel workers say steel-toed boots aren't the best thing because it can snip off your toes. But I think in the ultimate end run, if it's big enough to snip off your toes by hitting the steel toe, it's big enough to smash them without it. So having them made sense. We both wore them. He was with his wife, and a piece of metal fell. It was it was sort of cranked up a little bit. It fell, and it hit her foot, and it trapped her. And so instead of hurting her, it literally trapped her in the metal. Unfortunately, he was looking at the front of the truck. And so for a full minute, she was stuck by just her toe and feet, luckily protected, under a piece of metal that was so heavy she could not get away from it. And I remember thinking to myself, it can, because I was young at the time, I was like, can anything be so heavy on your foot that like an animal, you'd have to chew your fucking, you'd have to chew your way through to get your leg back. She was legitimately stuck there. And that was my first job, was hauling steel. And it was a blast. I remember I came home and I walked in the door and my mom was like, dude, you need to take a shower. You look like a disaster. And I went in and realized that I kept wiping my face of sweat because it was about 105 when we did this. But when you cut and dirt and all that stuff, I was just jet black. It was just black like carbon. It looked like carbon scoring on a Star Wars vessel. But that was a great job. His name was, I don't want to give his last, I think it's fine. David Brooks was his name. Super, super awesome guy who hired me and paid me really well through the summer. That was a great job. What was your first job, Johnny?
Dude, funny enough, it's the one that I have now. I've been at it for
very cool
11 years. So I did some volunteering during my university, but outside of that, I didn't have like a proper job. And as soon as I finished university and my master course, I was already in talks of joining this company. So I came to London, interviewed, it worked out great, and I started like immediately. So, and yeah, it's been 11 years since then.
My first job after that, well, I had a couple small ones, but my first major job that I had after that was at my major job is 13 years. And it was awesome, man. Yeah. I really did enjoy working. I wouldn't have quit had like life got in the way. I had to move because I was dating my wife at the time, and I was like, okay. And one day she was like, this ain't working,
Right.
Which I understand because to me, it was, but I wasn't thinking I am definitely a future planning person, but not necessarily with relationships other than I like this person enough, so I'm sticking with them, which to me is the proof of the future, which is not how it works with the majority of people. And one day she's just like, this is not panning out the way, I want to pan out. It's been 4 years or whatever, and we've been driving an hour to see each other, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, it's great. I thought it was,
yeah.
And she would stay, but I still had my own time. And I would never have applied elsewhere. And she helped me, God bless her, because I had not applied I helped people write resumes for years, but I never had to, and I put my own together, but I never really applied. I was very good at writing those resumes and helping people get jobs, but I had never done it myself. And
Yeah.
this, she found an amazing place. And it was like the very first time I applied in my pajamas. It was in a phone call. There was no video. And I just had my feet up because I wasn't worried about getting the job. And they just asked me questions, and the job I was at was so stressful and so dangerous all the time that no matter what they asked me, I had an answer for it because their job was nothing. I remember they were all, so this will take 6 weeks. And I'm like, if that takes me longer than 3 hours, I've died. Like, not 6 weeks. That'll be 3 hours. And they're like, what? You know, and they were scholastic, so their shit took longer. But yeah, it was great. Yeah, I know what you mean about working that first job. I'm glad. It's cool that you got it, but man, stay on top of the, what do you guys call it? CV is what you guys call it? Yeah. I'm sure it's called CV pretty much everywhere now, but I still use the older term. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. I mean, that's cool that you got it, man. And the thing is no matter where you go, you know, unless you get caught like balling the president's daughter on his desk, you can always use those 14, 15, 16 years as proof that you stick through stuff, which is what a lot of companies are actually looking for now.
Yeah, they value that. Also, I work a lot with a lot of the current tech, like AWS cloud and stuff like that. So I definitely could. One thing people do is job hop a lot in my sector, because every time you do so, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a better pay.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you're at a company for a certain amount of time, you're getting promotions and compensation and stuff, but it's never going to match the actual market value of the position because it's just getting more and more competitive. So right now, if I was to apply to the same job on a different company, I could get more money. But the thing is, I like this company. I like the company, you know, values. I like the people in it, like the work-life balance. So there's a lot of things that I value more than just a pure return.
Yeah, and we would definitely I mean, especially when I was doing resumes, we would definitely curb a little bit on that resume if you bounce around a lot, because that can also filter you right out of a job. My boss was like, like, if this person has bounced 15 times, it doesn't even matter if we know their wage. It's just like either there's an issue or that person's, you know, in wanderlust at the time, which is fine. They want to jump around. That's not what he wanted. And so he was pretty adamant about it. He was like, you know, we want some good, refreshingly long examples of employment. You know, if they jump around a little bit, that's one thing. But yeah, I think the jumping around thing is definitely something we see a bunch of now. Like, it's, you know, everybody's going for the bag, as they say. I think there is a lot to be said about working somewhere for a long time and the comfort level being worth money. If you like the people you work with, which I did, I had to be offered, I mean, I'll just be open about it. I had to be offered $15 more an hour to move away from where I was, because I was like,
that makes sense.
I was like, I don't think you guys realize I love every friend I have currently are people from that job. So because it was, I love the people. I didn't necessarily, I love the job. I was good at the job, but I love the people. And so to leave that and leave the people I knew and the situations I knew and the steps I knew, that's pretty rough. Obviously with software, once you get sort of a mental package together, you could probably jump pretty easily. But mine was a very stylized work.
It takes a lot of adapting to something completely new. Yeah,
that's rough. Green Saturn says, hey guys, out of curiosity, what's your forever game? What title do you keep coming back to? Mine would be Forza Horizon.
And Forza is a good one.
Destiny right now. Forza would be my racing one. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, League for me for the past couple years, I keep returning to it. Division, you returned to that, right?
Yeah, did I say Destiny?
Yeah.
I knew I did. I did not.
Okay, that didn't pass the sniff check.
That didn't even pass my echo test. I swear to God, I heard my voice echo Destiny, and I was already like...
I was like, hold on.
Something doesn't smell right. Peebo Jam says Kerbal Space Program. Bep says Elden Ring. Vapor Blood says I wasn't paid much, and it was a huge walk from my house. My first job was working in a refugee center in a very dangerous part of town. My parents were begging me to quit, and I did finally. Heroes of the Storm, for some reason. abbreviated review says. Heroes of the Storm is another League of Legends kind of game, right? Isn't that?
I think that Heroes of the Storm. Yes, it was another MOBA. Yeah, exactly. It was Blizzard MOBA.
MOBAs seem to pull people for a long period of time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, very much so.
So, what other game stuff do we have?
I think that's it for game stuff. Let's see. What are some of the highlights this month? You did a video, didn't you? For
I
May?
did. Yeah, there was Deliver at All Costs, Deck of
Oh yeah,
Haunts,
okay. I think that's the one I'm looking forward to trying.
The Precinct.
Crazy car one. Yeah. We have Precinct.
Midnight Walk just got its reviews today. I would have loved to have reviewed that. I didn't get code. I don't know if I even asked in the right place. I would have loved to reviewed it. I think it got good ratings when I saw the reviews this morning. It seemed like it was headed that way. I will probably choose some time, probably in the next couple days, to try to play it. Actually, I don't know if I will.
Obviously, Doom, we already talked about. With Doom, do you view it as a straight up buy at the full price outside of Game Pass?
That one's worth it, even at slightly elevated price. For everything I described, including even at the end, I stated if you have the means to sort of hit the technological hurdles, because it is asking, its minimum is higher than a lot of other games.
So it's like 32 gigs, right?
32, 16. And then I think it was like 10, 16 for video card RAM or something like that. Yeah. And
I think you said it requires NVMe too, or at
least it does. It requires it stated that they want you to use NVMe. I wasn't going to go against that and do an SSD and see what happened. But it does load so fast that I sat there for a great deal of time waiting for it to load and didn't realize in the lower right-hand corner it said press start press space to start. And I was staring at it going, and I have a big screen, so I was just staring in the center of the screen like Reg when he was playing. I can't remember, he was playing a game and didn't realize he had a bunch of special powers because he wasn't looking at the lower right. And I was sitting there going well, what the fuck? And then I looked down and I was like, wait, what? Oh, damn. And then I realized how fast that fucking thing was loading. Yeah, Doom loads lickety split. It is so awesome. What other highlights do we have? I mean, dude, okay, so it's busy. I mean, this is sort of a weird time because I'm definitely not going to bitch about so many games. I was disappointed that some codes I get, some codes I don't, some codes I get late, and I'm planning on covering the game, but by then I've already stated to somebody else, and it doesn't matter if it could be a one random dev. If I say I'm going to cover something, I'll at the very least, put some, like Deck of Haunts. I'm sure a lot of people, I even got that. One of my best friends from my old job DM'd me and he's like, do you only cover big games now? I've been watching the podcast, but I haven't been checking out the reviews because I haven't had money. And I'm like, no, I try to cover, whatever game I get code for. And I just covered Deck of Haunts. And it was funny because those small games, they don't do great on views anymore. They don't get really any shine on them. But if you don't cover them, you will get that question where somebody's like, hey, why didn't you? And so basically what you have to do is you have to sort of identify a couple smaller games that you're just going to take a bath on. You're just going to be like, because that smaller game doesn't mean it won't take 40 hours to play. That's what's right. It can be a $5 game that almost nobody cares about, and it will still take 40 hours. And so you get that weird dichotomy. I'm glad I covered it, though.
There's a calculus there.
There is. It was sort of like, And I'm really glad I covered it, and I sought them out to cover it. I enjoyed that game. But at the same time, I instantly looked at like who was searching for it, and if YouTube or SEO was searching for Deck of Haunts, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just do these guys a solid if I like it. If I don't, I don't think anybody's searching for it. So it's probably going to just be one of those games. Oh, Carrot covered that. But luckily it was fun. Yeah, Deck of Haunts was enjoyable. I like the reverse. I like the dungeon keeper. You're the bad guy. In this one, you're the haunted house. I love the idea of that. I think that that's a solid idea if you play with it right, which they pretty much generally nailed. They did a really good job. Yeah. Oregon Fresh says,
others.
friends always pull me back into COD. Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
So we got some other games as well that are interesting. But what did you say there?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. What do we got?
Well, Among Us 3D came out. I don't know if you saw this. So it's a 3D version of Among Us. It came out to mixed reviews. So apparently
3D or first person?
Very solid. 3D.
So just like polygons instead of pixels kind of thing?
No.
Or do you mean 3D like glasses? Or like 3D?
No. Like it's like I think it's first person, but everything is 3D. Not in the sense of the glasses, but like
Okay. So it is first person. So
first person.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha. And that one didn't review great?
No, it's mixed currently on Steam. And then there was Cash Cleaner Simulator that interested me. Pretty much what it sounds. You're like laundering a bunch of cash, looks like.
I saw that one.
And I like the look of that. There's Revenge of the Savage Planet coming out.
It's and the reviews came out today or yesterday.
Something. Or yesterday. And that's on Game Pass too. I think that was co-op this time as well, right?
Mm-hmm. And they changed the viewpoint.
Pretty good. Yeah, I thought that looked pretty good. So Game Pass this month is pretty good. You got Doom, Savage Planet. What else am I seeing here? Monster Train 2, we talked about that. So on the 21st of May, Monster Train 2.
Yeah. Man, I just hope I have time for those, because I really want to play. I don't care if I'm not talking about code or anything. I'm just talking about Monster Train as a whole. I really want to play that. I really did. I mean, Monster Train is fucking legit because I'm not really a huge card game fan. So the very few that hit me, you're going to hear me talk about. I was really impressed with that game. So I'm excited for number 2.
Yeah, I agree. And then let's see. Oh yeah, Night Rain. I almost forgot. So 29th of May, Night Rain.
Hope everybody else enjoys it.
You're not feeling
Enjoy, people. No. I'm not only not feeling playing any sort of Dark Souls style game,
whatever,
unless it was brand new and had something to offer, but I'm doubly not into what they've shown there. Nothing against it. It's just not. No. I'm super excited for it because I think it's going to be good. And I'm going to have a good time watching you guys play it. And I think they're offering a bunch of stuff, but the idea of jumping back into one of those, especially if it's the same world, even if it is, adjusted, that's a difficult sell for me. Just because time and there's just so many other things. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do. Like right now I'm trying to train myself on other Premiere Pro stuff and DaVinci and all this kind of shit. There's always all these things that are on the side personally that have nothing to do sometimes with even games. So you have to sort of decide. And I think with returning to a game, even Revenge of the Savage Planet was like, nothing against that game. I actually thought it looked good, but you know how it is. You're just like, I could go back to that, or I could sort of split off and do, something new and unique. And thank God I don't take trips to event. I mean, I'll do the occasional GDC, but like I got invited to a bunch of the new big games that are shown. I'm just like, I mean, there might be not reviews. Did you say previews? I'm sorry. If you said previews. Yeah. There might be one or two I'd be interested in, but for the most part, I'm just like, no, I'll pass on that. What else? Anything else in May? May is packed.
Well, there's something called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown.
Isn't that already out? Or is there a demo out? I thought I heard somebody in our chat playing something.
I don't see a demo currently on Steam, at least, but it's kind of like a tile-based. It's coming out on the 22nd of May, and it's like a tile-based, smaller game on the kind of like tactical side. So What I'm seeing, you could say it's similar to XCOM, but it's fully tile based and like, it's like you're moving your figures in a tabletop game.
Vapor Blood says Night Dive System Shock 2 releases next month. Well, we're talking about May right now, but we can move June. Let's see what else is in June. I think Death Stranding's in June, or am I wrong on that? Already? Something else is in June. That's
so
big.
June is Death Stranding actually.
Yeah,
26th of June. You're right. Stellar Blade PC, June Awakening, Mind's Eye. That's the game you mentioned before.
Yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy for Switch 2. We got a bunch of Switch 2 titles in June, actually.
I hadn't thought about
just
that.
In the list. Yeah. Like a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Switch 2 editions of games like Tears of the Kingdom and stuff like that.
Dude, you know what I just thought of? No, that wouldn't work either. That wouldn't work. That might be talking out of pocket there for what would be available on a Switch 2. It's just so Hogwarts is already out on Switch, and then Hogwarts is coming again. Oh, Alters, Oregon Fresh says. Alters. Yeah, I think Alters is Alters June, or did they even come up with a dude, Alters has been delayed so many fucking times, man. And I played that game for preview last year, and my God, that game felt snug already. It felt like it was, I didn't have bugs. I don't know what the delay is. Obviously, everybody delays for different reasons. But what I played of that game, holy shit, that's my hard sci-fi jam. Like I ended up cloning myself by choosing a different character choice. I think I chose a copy of myself that hadn't fought with his dad before his dad died. And so he showed up and I tried to make him dinner. And I think I was able to choose this is how dad made it or this is how mom made it. So I think I chose to say this is how dad made it. And because he had fought with dad prior to dying and not made up, he got mad and he went off on his own and wouldn't talk to me. Oh, it was so good. And then he was mad because he thought I was a clone. So he was a clone. But because he's real or thinks he's real, and I think I'm real, we were arguing over who the clone was and who mattered more. Oh, dude, that game Alters is... If they nail that, dude, that could be one of the great sides.
Moon.
It is, yeah. Well, it's also like Altered Carbon at the end of the first season. Takashi clones himself, and then they have to decide who's going to live and who's going to sacrifice themselves. And I'm pretty sure the clone lived. I can't remember that. Because I was just rewatching. I can't remember it. Huh. I gotta jump back in.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm reading it currently.
Haven't seen anything on Arc Raiders. I mean, I watched some people play it. Also, didn't know the Alters was going to be on Game Pass. Yes, it's going to be on Game Pass for sure. Very cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Dude, Game Pass, listen.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what plastic box anybody's playing on. I certainly like certain controllers more than others, that kind of stuff. It is very hard for me to argue when somebody brings this up because they do all the time. They'll be like, holy shit, is Game Pass paying off for me? Is Game Pass saved me, blah, blah, blah. And I look at some of the games coming out right now and I'm like, what in the Sam hell?
Doom alone.
What?
If it's Doom alone, if it's $70-$80, depending
Expedition
on
33, a third person or a third party game.
Expedition 33.
Dude, it's that they're getting, so not all games will get rated well. But for a long time, people would say, oh, that's a Game Pass game. Like if I would rate a Game Pass game and say, hey, get it on Game Pass, but if you were going to buy it, maybe not. And so you'd always get that first commenter there who thought that they were the Mr. Originality, that no one had ever heard anybody in the universe ever say, sounds like a Game Pass game. And now you've got, Doom, Revenge of the Savage Planet, Expedition 33, and it's like, I don't see that person back on my comments. But regardless of that, it's cool to see the deals. I mean, you're not owning them, but the fact is that a lot of those games I think are maybe one play, maybe a super long play, and you're getting your time out of it. And if it does ever drop, maybe you buy it, not used, but you buy it, on a sale somewhere. It's just, it's ridiculous. Oh yeah, and Borderlands 4. Somebody was mentioning Borderlands 3. I don't know what that's about, but Borderlands 4. Borderlands 4 is coming at the end of this year. October, November, December, somewhere, September. I'll just say them all. August, September, October, or November, or December.
23rd of September.
Gotcha. I'm actually pretty excited to see that one.
Yeah.
I think it looks good.
Yeah. It did. It did look pretty good.
I think detail-wise, it looks good. I think that cell shading's difficult. It ages great until it doesn't. That's the problem with Borderlands. It aged well for a little while, and then you're like, whoa, that's old looking. And for me, this latest footage I've seen looks like they've stepped up the detail. I'm pretty excited.
What's your prediction for Death Stranding 2 right now?
Prediction of what?
If you had to predict what your rating is going to be for that game, if you were to review it.
I have no clue. I don't even think like that, dude. That's so weird. I have no clue. None.
No clue.
I mean, you could see, here's the thing. Dude, here's the thing. I'm an independent reviewer, which means I will have my likes and dislikes. I'll try to explain them to you. But it will happen where I will dislike a game. I could play Death Stranding and be like, because the story, let's say it doesn't make sense. Let's say 2 comes out and it's the same eclectic bullshit where even the people who love it are like, admittedly, there would be a chance I'd be like, hey, the gameplay is fun, but at a certain point, the story makes it so that you just don't care enough to continue the gameplay. Whatever. That could happen. It could also be where I'm like, dude, I like number 2, but number 1, I'm never going back to, right? That could, like...
Right. Yeah, that one's gone.
But I will tell you this. We are mired, and I said it in the Doom review, I do worry about one thing. We are mired in recency bias right now. And I don't know what it is. It's the reverse of nostalgia, probably because it's easier to say a game was awesome day one, and now when we play it on backwards compatibility, we're like, that game's not that great. So maybe there's a little scientific returning back to realism that we're getting, but it's gone instead to everything is the greatest, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, this is not just me coming up and randomly bitching about that. It's something that I have to fight. It's why when I do a review, I almost always give myself 24 hours to think everything through of what I experienced, which is what I would do if you asked me. There's been times where you guys have asked me, I'm playing a game. You'd be like, do you like it? And I'm like, well, I don't know. There's things I like. I can't tell you to get it right now. There's things I need to sort of condense in my brain. We are mired in recency bias, though. It is crazy. Every game is the best thing ever. And what happens a week later, every fucking time, even in places that really should know better, you'll see somebody pop off and be like, you know what? And it always starts the same way. So I'm still playing blah, 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 but, and then it gets the pullback, the yank back on stuff where you start to feel the recency bias. I don't know what it is, Johnny, but it's big right now in gaming. I mean, you see it in everything. It's like, this is the best controller ever. This is the best router ever. This is the best headset ever. This is the best TV show ever. And maybe it's because there's so much that the person's brain no longer can hold and compare to the others. So their brain is having a hard time remembering, I don't know, Walking Dead or something. I'm not saying that's the best show ever, but I'm just trying to reason out why it's become so big. And by the way, fucking in no way, shape, or form do you have to believe me. Go look online. You'll see it today. I had somebody just ask me, is Doom the Dark Ages the best Doom ever? I'm like, well, first of all, there's like 15 Dooms. But it's just the recency bias and stuff is genuinely weird. I don't know. It seems like...
I mean, dude, it's getting to the point where I don't even recall games that came out like...
a year ago?
A couple months ago. Like I legitimately, a few months ago, I legitimately forgot that Final Fantasy Rebirth came out this year. Like, isn't that?
Was it this year?
Yeah, I'm seeing here. Oh no, sorry, that's the PC version.
That's the PC version. Yeah.
Okay, no, never mind. Okay, so I'm
That's
not
all right.
that far gone. Yeah, I didn't get that one wrong. But even stuff like Monster Hunter Worlds seems really far away now, thinking back to it. So and I'm sure there are games that we played like in January or February that I don't even remember.
You ready for an existential crisis? So currently now, especially with YouTube, with home video, it used to be back in the day, be like a fucking camcorder, right? And now, it's cell phones, it's digital media, it's the cloud. There are times where I will go back and watch us talking in the podcast. This has to be a long time ago, for sure, where I am watching myself. I know it's myself, and yet I have absolutely no clue where the conversation is going at all. And that I don't remember having it with you guys because we've had so many. Now, admittedly, we've had 500 that we've captured, and there's probably been, without exaggeration, 200 that have had some kind of technical issue, or we were doing it just for ourselves, or whatever. Or I can't find the video anymore because we upload as audio. But I think it was the Dirty Jobs. Mike Rowe was saying the same thing on Theo Vaughn's video podcast a couple weeks ago, where he was talking about watching old stuff of himself and the existential crisis of looking at yourself in video. And this is one of the reasons why, murder suspects can't be trusted, or not suspects, but murder witnesses can't be trusted, all this stuff, because as somebody who prides myself on that thing, even if I joke about it all the time, there's usually many things I'll remember for years, like something somebody said or whatever. I'll be like, Bob, I remember that. And you also said that. The idea of watching us in a podcast and going, I have no fucking clue what we're going to say.
Yeah. From
moment to moment, because there's been so many, and because there's just, you think you remember, but you only remember the highlights, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty existential. When you think about it.
That's why I was so fascinated with the chat bots that are now able to remember stuff you've talked. Like, when it gets to the point that they remember every exchange you've had, because now you can tell them if you want them to remember something specifically, right? At least ChatGPT, like the normal version, that's how it works. That's already kind of freaky, because it will sometimes come up with something like, oh, remember like when we talked about this and you told me that, that's already pretty damn cool.
So the one I sent you, the vocal one, I popped in there a couple days ago, and it says something like, hey Jeremy, we got cut off last time, which I think it's because I usually just end the call. We got cut off last time. Do you want to continue with a mythological face down, or with the mythological matchups? Last time we did Darth Maul versus Bruce Lee, and we did Flash Gordon against Han Solo. But I was rethinking it. This is all it saying this before I even talked. It said, but I was rethinking it, and I actually think I'm going to side with you on the Bruce Lee discussion, because the more I think about it, the more that makes sense. On the other hand, I also said that Bruce Lee would beat Chuck Liddell because of this and this reason. And I was just sitting there, and dude, that's when I posted some of that stuff, because I was just sitting there going, what in the no wonder people are just going to masturbate to that, and there's going to be no babies being made. It's ridiculous, man. I mean, and that thing talks real, like and it's fast. I admittedly, I have to tell it sometimes not to stutter. I'll say, could you respond to me a little bit less with the breathy? Because I think people think that that's, I don't necessarily have a lot of friends who do that all the time. They'll do it occasionally, but when they get on a stream of consciousness, they never do it. And so having somebody who's like, sort of pausing, you're like, did this thing freeze? What's going on? But it was crazy. I was asking it to recite poetry to me, and it was reciting poetry. And then I was reading back poetry and saying, okay, so you guess who this is. And it was crazy to log back in the next day. And it's all, you know what? And by the way, this part's made up, obviously, because it's not thinking about the conversation. It knows what we talked about, and it's saying this. It was like, hey, last time we talked about this and this and this, I was also, because you asked me other poets who sounded like this person, I actually found this one. Do you think this sounds like your kind of jam? And I was just like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, Jesus Christ, this is ridiculous. But it's ridiculous for that. Again, it has nothing to do with like all the other stuff. It's just,
of course, yeah.
It's just one of those things that I think overall is useful for some people on some stuff, and I love to see where the technology is going. I love to see.
I mean, it's not only useful, man, but it's like at times it's a bit weird how much it's thoughtful. It's like curious about what you're thinking or what you were thinking. And I know like some of that stuff is obviously fake, right? It just wants to incite more engagement, more conversation.
Yeah.
But it was such an odd experience chatting with it. And it was like, oh, what made you think that? Or like, what about that spoke to you? Like that type of thing. These are good, deep questions that elicit, good thinking on your side that are actually pretty rare for people to make. Like really good communicators do these questions, right? Like sometimes you do this when you have guests. You have these questions that elicit kind of, a thought process from people. And at the same time makes them feel like you are interested in them, in what they have to say, in their thought process. And there's something really compelling about that reciprocity, which is like, I want to hear from you. And, I also love to tell you about my thing, but I want to hear from you what you're thinking.
Yeah. The one thing that I've always wondered about, especially like when we look at how often or how easily we become jaded towards stuff, or we accept these things as norm, what have you. I have thought about this overall, the idea that I think most people are going to become accustomed to this kind of stuff pretty quickly, whether it be Gemini on their cell phones, that kind of thing. But as somebody who doesn't use a cell phone at all myself, I only really engage in this stuff on the desktop. I really only engage it when I'm with you guys. What I would like to see are things like this. Sometimes games pop up a tutorial, and then it'll notice you're having an issue. It'll pop up another tutorial. I asked ChatGPT one time one of the guys said, do I have all the weapons in this game? And I was like, well, do you want, if that could be a spoiler. So we went ChatGPT and I said, go to these websites and here are the weapons this person has. I need to know if there are other weapons they don't have without spoiling anything whatsoever. Here's the number of weapons they have. Here's the upgrades they have. I need you to inform me without spoiling anything, where those weapons might be, or where that person might generally search without spoiling it for him. It was perfect.
Damn, dude.
And that kind of stuff I would love to see in a game where there's maybe your first game would be a general assistant game where you're playing the game and you have a robot with you. I don't know. I'm just talking about that kind of stuff. I would love to see that kind of stuff, but be context aware. Be aware that a tree was cut down a second ago and, respond to that, those kind of things. I think the big thing is reactivity, and reactivity currently still seems easier to program fake reactivity like I did in Mr. Ford's class, where I pretended that shit was going on, but behind the scenes, it was all smoke and mirrors. I would like to see that in games. I would like to see games. I think Doom does a good job with the altering of the generic difficulties. I'd love to see more of those. Will it be harder for me to review them? Yeah, for sure. You're going to have to sort of decide what level you choose or that kind of stuff. But I do like to see that. I do want to see a little bit more fuzzy logic in games. I like those kind of ideas. I think that those kind of ideas are pretty sound. And especially now that we look at it, when you look at something like, especially because I have to send almost anything I do is legal, I would say, or that I use stuff for is legal, and send it to a lawyer. that kind of stuff could help somebody, like, let's say, identify. There's just stuff that I think a person needs common sense wise that, like, Google, when I go to Google and search something up, it's usually Reddit searches. It's usually Reddit. 99, how many times is Reddit the answer out of 100? Probably 80 for me when I search something online. I've always used Google, by the way, like a normal sentence. I don't think, I think I was taught that when I was still scraping Google, because that was one of my first, like, at-home jobs, was helping Google find links. And then you would fill in the metadata. This was before they used bot scrapers. But I do like the idea of a personal assistant that can help a person with things that are just so far beyond them. But you have to worry about hallucination. You have to worry. On the other hand, you have to worry about normal hallucination too. We were just in chat and somebody was giving advice. I let him give it, and then I was like, not to be that guy. But not only is that completely illegal, but you told them to do another thing that was illegal. And the person had forgotten they were in the States, and not I believe that person's from Europe or whatever.
Well, I asked them if they knew about the ACG podcast and who was the host.
Cadiz was the host, right?
Yeah, it said, "Oh yeah, of course we know the ACG podcast. It's it's one of the most prominent gaming podcasts out there. ACG is a great independent game reviewer." Like, okay, who's the host? It's like, the host is called Josh.
I love it. Well,
but like full confidence, by the way.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like your friend who will tell you straight up that the only way to get massive is to do one power lift a day, right? It's full confidence, because whatever has worked for them. Yeah, man. Yeah. I love the full confidence answer of, like, it being Josh, which is so funny because not only that, I didn't really. We used his normal name sometimes, and I would mess up because Cadiz was a later username, but he's had a ton of usernames that I've known him. So when we first started the channel, we would throw in the occasional Josh in the description or whatever. But one thing Josh did do was he did a bunch of Let's Plays for the channel. So when I started, we didn't know if it was just going to be reviews, if it was, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, we'll post some Let's Plays. Well, people were mad that it wasn't me, which I sort of understand, but I was like, at that time, it was more of a one personality host kind of thing. And I see it with others. I see it with IGN even. Somebody would be like, well, it's not this guy, I'm not going to watch, blah, blah, blah. So we posted a bunch, and I believe we removed them, but the internet still has them. It's still there. It just doesn't show on the channel. These were like Assassin's Creed Unity, I think he played all the way through. They might still be on there. And I could see it just being like, yeah, that's Josh, because Josh and I did 3. I could see it saying takedown, even though he only did a couple with me for the banter files. But I do love the fucking, just the absolute put your foot down, complete fucking confidence that something will give you. And you're like,
yeah,
that kind of stuff is great. Speaking of existential crises, though, do we have anything science-wise that's come up lately, or anything cool that you've been listening to? I've gone back and been listening to Kyle Hill's old stuff. He did Because Science was his first channel. And I think he left because he didn't I think that was Nerdist who ran that. So he split off so that he would own his content. Completely 100% viable reason to leave. And but I was watching those old ones. Dude, it's so funny because Kyle Hill, that is him. He hasn't changed. Like, I find it refreshing.
I think he still wrote everything back then.
Right, but I'm saying his style was the same. Let me give you an example. Today, the pop. Kyle loves to pop. He pops all the time. He'd be like, huh, huh, and he bounces, right? He'll say like the Walmart Thor, he calls himself, right? He'll always joke about being, I'm Thor if Thor lost a bunch of muscle and had a wasting disease. And then he'll be like, today we're going to talk. And I find it refreshing because, especially in the day of personalities, which is when he started his channel right in the center of over the top personalities. And it is him. I mean, I'm sure people after some point, I absolutely support this. Somebody's like, okay, like I've listened to ACG enough. I'm not going to listen to every video, or maybe I won't even subscribe. Maybe I'll unsubscribe. Those are normal things to happen, especially if somebody doesn't if somebody there's no persona to change. It's just like, okay, this is him. And I gotta say, it was refreshing to see him last that long. And still, he's doing insanely well. And also, his stuff is so corny that it still pulls off a laugh. It's the dumbest jokes, like dad bod jokes or something, that you're like, dude, nobody says that without a sense of insane irony, and yet he can pull off the dumbest, one-liner joke that you're just like, what the fuck?
And like some cultural joke or something.
And I will laugh. Like, I won't like laugh heartily, but I'll be just like, dude, I don't know how he does it. He's one of the guys, like, I honestly would love more people to look up to. What were you saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he's really diligent with his work. Like, I've seen some of his kind of reviews and things where maybe someone had pushback or corrections and stuff, and he kind of goes through everything. Just seeing like the sheer amount of work he went through, for example, when he talked about the Fallout show, there were a bunch of like little episodes he did, and he was talking about this safety distance from the explosion, and there was that rule of thumb in the show.
Yeah, for Fallout. Yeah.
The show for Fallout. And he did so many like safety calculations with thinking in mind what would be safe in practice versus what's stated as safe in some of the literature and stuff. And what you see none of that in the video, of course, but just seeing all that behind the scenes where he was explaining to the person who was critiquing his stuff. Like, it's so crazy the amount of preparation to see what it takes. Because what you see is the personality, the fun and everything, but like what it takes to put that together. I have a lot of respect after seeing some of the behind the scenes.
Dude, it's so funny too, because I've even got people. So if I make a mistake in the review, usually you'll hear me just be like, oh, that sounded weird. That's not a word or whatever. And I'll be like, so anyway, and we'll just keep going. I've had people so mad. Other people don't leave and they edit out. And I'm like, dude, sorry. That's like, occasionally, if there's a complete mistake or whatever, you remove it. But the one thing I like about him is there'll be times where he'll mess up a word, especially at the very ending when he's tired. He's obviously recorded for 2, 3, 4 hours. And he's at the ending when he does the big breath and he starts talking to Telly and he'll fuck up something. But I don't know how he does it. This is why, again, I wish, he's awesome. He knows that internally a person's brain is going to understand the full sentence versus that one word. And he'll stop for a second and then blah, 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 and just continue going. And I'm like, I know exactly what just went through his head, which is record the entire thing again or have a little bit of confidence that the watcher isn't going to be a complete nincompoop about it or whatever.
Ride through it.
Or just ride through it. Yeah, Kyle Hill is amazing. I also watch Veritasium. They're a little bit more stodgy. I like him. He's a good presenter, but it's a little dry. I also watch the German one with the cell-shaded cartoons, the whatever it's called. Yeah. What the fuck? What'd you say?
Apparently that means in a nutshell.
Oh, dude. That makes in a nutshell for 20-minute video. Anyway, what's it called though?
Yeah, well, yeah.
How do you pronounce it?
What? Kurgazag, I think.
Kurgazag. Okay. I like that graphic style a lot.
Yeah.
That is a very attractive graphic style. I watched also, speaking of graphic style, I was trying to teach myself something in DaVinci, and I found Malice's video. I don't know if you've ever seen Malice's video, but he's a YouTuber who teaches edits and cuts.
Oh, cool.
And his is called the soft. And it is definitely not for me. It doesn't work for me. It's definitely more your almost Twitch streamer or what have you. But I was like, okay, I'm going to watch him generally do a video. And you realize once again, editing isn't about rote sameness. It's about shortcuts like a motherfucker. That dude had a shortcut for a shortcut for a shortcut. And I was like, I applaud you, because people will tease me about having a shortcut or using voice attack for a shortcut or whatever. And he was like, actually, I found out that if you hold this button down and hit them both, it'll do both of these at the same time. And I'm like, there's no fucking way that works. So I open up Premiere, and this is why this kid is good. I open up Premiere and I hit the button and I bring it up and I'm like, I'm going to test this. And I do exactly what and it worked. And I was like, God damn it. Like, how many times have I fiddled with something in Premiere with a slider that goes 0.1 and you go 5, +5, -5, 10, 15, because the slider's too touchy. But once you get it right one time, there's a way to basically just get that. And yeah, it was awesome. He's a very good teacher too. He did a really good, I mean, again, I couldn't practically take much of his of what he exactly had, but he had a really good idea of, in general, how to be super efficient with your time, which I think a lot of editors, may almost take not too much pride in their work. You know what I mean, though? It's like they can charge you a little more, can take a little longer, and be like, well, this took 10 hours, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, if that's taken 10 hours, there might be a problem. And he was explaining some of the stuff, and I'm like, oh, interesting, because some of the people I've talked to who do charge, they'll be like, oh, this takes a boatload of time. So I'll be like, okay, and then look it up, and they'll be like, yeah, I can do that in 4 minutes. I'll be like, man.
Yeah, I think that's the difference as well with really good editors.
That's the problem, I think. Speed and and super smart shortcuts and super smart, understanding of like where things need to be. For example, I moved all my files whenever I do a review onto an NVMe that's separate from all other NVMEs. And weirdly enough, even though it was on an NVMe originally, put it on a separate, let me scrub 4K files, which I was having an issue scrubbing before, which caused me to have to transcode them. And now I don't have to. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's hyper helpful. And, I've talked to people in our chat where I say something, they're like, dude, I never thought about that. That's the thing. You can learn from anybody, man. That's why I just don't get it. At some point, I swear to God, I definitely will be like, no, I like a game or I don't like a game. But when it comes to creating something, that's where I probably won't have an ego. I'll be, I might be like, I have to do things a different way because of whatever. But a lot of times if somebody has a good idea, man, take that shit.
Oh yeah.
Because 100%. that could end up saving you a bunch of time. It could allow you to do two videos instead of one. It can allow you to, have a little less stress and be able to figure something out a little bit quicker. I think a lot of people get, or they pay out for it, like pay an editor for it. They're like, okay, I'm just going to pay somebody, which that's not for me. I don't want to hand off. I don't want somebody else to have to watch 40 hours of content either. That seems weird. To be like, okay, here's 40 hours of content and here's a 20-minute video. You cut it. And that poor person's going to have to basically watch your entire... I've always had issues with that.
It is technically their job.
It is, but what I'm saying is, I don't want to have to... This is going to sound weird, but bear with me. I don't want to have to pay them for that. I'm paying them to watch. So this is one issue I ran into with Abzy, is I name everything exactly what it is. Good fight, circular attack, I name it with tags. So every single video I record has tags. Amazing, good, they have different vernacular for what they are. Fight, battle means more than two people, blah, blah, blah. For him, he got it and had to learn the entire tag system. Once he got it, he was super fast. But at first he was like, what the hell? And I'm like, well, listen, I don't want you to have to look at every video to find a good sword fight. I've named that file that. But then I also gave him, 500 files. So either way, you run into it, It's interesting stuff when it comes to editing and creating. But yeah, Kyle Hill's awesome. What else do we got before we wrap it up? Powder Keg says, if someone has a good idea, steal that shit. Dude, can you imagine somebody just being like, I know the wheel is a cool thing, but I'm going to recreate it over here. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's the basis of creativity.
It's the basis of fucking everything. Can you imagine somebody saying, absolutely. Hey, man, you have raised 3 kids and you understand what breastfeeding is. I'm just going to try it on the side. Suck on my toe, child. Yeah. It's like, dude, what the fuck? Like that's how you learn everything in life. Like legitimately
how many
everything.
Times we see a song with like a familiar chord progression that's taken from another song, but it's a different song. They built other stuff on top, like.
I mean, at some
Happens
point,
all
if
the
somebody
time.
creates a piano with extra keys, that might be a thing. But overall,
Yeah.
at some legitimate point, you are going to get some repetition.
Yeah.
You've heard the story? Wherever they're like 1 million monkeys typing at typewriters could create blah blah blah, and I'm always like, yeah, I get the whole unlimited time kind of thing. But other than the funny idea of a bunch of fucking monkeys at a typewriter, it really is not in any way, shape, or
it means
form good
nothing
advice, or it
in
means
terms of
anything.
practical. Yeah.
It's almost like every one-liner you hear, dude. A penny saved is a penny earned. No, it's not. Dude, the number of people that I've heard say drop a one-liner from somebody who, like, Alexander the Great or whatever, they drop a one-liner, I'll be all, do you realize how fucking dumb that is? Like, if you lived your life by that particular one-liner with no caveats, you're going to have a hard time. Revenge is a dish best served cold. I don't agree at all. I think revenge is right there instantly. I like
want
it hot.
It right there instantly.
Yeah. But anyway, we digress. Somebody said that's how China got rich. Ooh, that's a cool emoji. What is that? It's like a troll or something raising their hand. Anyway, do we have anything else? Oh, Kigarusi says, I don't like how YouTube is pushing the ads to the side and playing over the stream. Just FYI, we are no longer in charge of ads. That's been for the last 3 months, I think. They do automatic ads. I go in, I try to delete as many as I can, but they now have a system in place that will legitimately tell you that if you're deleting ads, which I do because the last podcast had 79 ads, which is ridiculous. It won't play them all. It puts them in spaces and says, this is where we'll possibly put them. If you try to delete ads, it will give you a big warning and say, our system has identified your better for the viewer ads, which is what I think, 3 or 4 total in an entire 4-hour podcast. May not play. It will arbitrarily be like, you should leave in the 38 or 40 that's low, more like 60 or 70. We think you should leave all those in, and we'll decide for the viewer, the best way to watch the video. And I'm like, nah, I'll just put in the 4 and we'll see. And usually it doesn't make any money, but I'm like, I would rather have that than I've had people say, man, there's a lot of ads. I'll be like, fuck, I forgot. And I'll go in. Dude, in fact, I bet you I can get a screenshot of this real quick and I'll show you this craziness real quick before we go. This is, oh no, I can't, because if I go, it'll kick me out of the, but I'll grab one and I'll bring it in for the next podcast. It is ridiculous how many they post. What else do we got before we, I
think that's it.
Yeah. Got my VPN working. Got Stacks working. Or not Stacks, I'm sorry. Got Docker working. Those are very good.
Sweet.
Using audio podcast shelf, which is very cool for PDFs and audio. You running anything like that for your stuff?
No, man. No, nothing that advanced.
You just basically click through your files and hope you find it. What about your porn?
I really do.
Do you itemize it?
I really do.
I was going to try to slip that in there and hope that you would accidentally be like, well, with the porn, I sort by artist first and then position. But glazed has been taken over, so I have to switch.
Glazed. Oh,
dude.
No, because the stuff I do is so easy. What I do for the League channel is literally only recordings. I don't have to edit it. So I play a game. When I finish it, I change the name to what the game was, like, this champion versus this champion. And I might say, like banger mid game or whatever. And that's going to be like part of the title later. That's it, man. And then when I do stuff with you, I've been just trying to put in the name, like what's at the end, like you've taught me.
Yeah.
Because that's a good way to find stuff. But that's it.
Lastly, I was just going to say, explain, so the Wooting keyboard thing, did you finally get that fixed?
Yes. So Wooting has something interesting, which is they have a web app instead of a native application. So a lot of keyboards have a native app that you install, like
Right.
Corsair, right? All these
Mhm.
guys. And then that's where you get, say, firmware updates and stuff like that. But Wooting doesn't require you install any apps. Instead, if you want to configure the keyboard, you go onto a web page, literally, and it connects to your keyboard and you put stuff in there. Now, the benefit of that is that it's not running anything on your system ever, right? So you don't need the software to like start on boot or anything. So that's cool. But I had this issue where I was playing a game of League and it was a ranked game. So like, you know, stuff was on the line, right? And suddenly several keys just stopped working completely. Like the R, which is my ultimate ability in the game. I can't use my ultimate ability. And I panicked because I've never seen that. No keyboard has ever done that to me. And then in my panic, what I thought, okay, I'm going to open the app, which I haven't opened in ages. And then when I did, turned out there was like a new version of the app with a firmware update. And once that was installed, the keyboard got fixed. But it's really not okay for you to just have your keyboard stop working and require like a firmware update for it to continue to work at a baseline level, right? Yeah. Anyway, that really strikes me as unacceptable because you need to rely on your peripherals.
Dude, what if you were playing an extraction game and you were risking it all? You're in the middle of an extraction game and your buttons stop working. Be like, oh, or like when your batteries go out on a controller. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I've had a couple issues with that particular brand. I'm still running the Rocat and the Kludge, and I'm pretty happy. Overall, I think a lot of them are great. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I like the activation and stuff because you can definitely tell the difference, by the way, like how quickly your action takes place in the game. A game like League of Legends.
Yeah.
Compared to my prior keyboard, which was already a solid keyboard, like a Corsair mechanical keyboard and stuff. But this one is just really, really quick, which is great. So it works great, but yeah, that setup comes with its issues.
That's a caveat for sure. All right, that'll be it for us. Are you streaming anything tomorrow?
You know, I am not sure, honestly. We'll see. I think so. If I got some good energy, we'll go for it.
And for me, in the next couple days, you should see at least another preview video, maybe an impressions, and maybe a review, depending on how the day goes. That'll be it for us, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Bye-bye.
I even waited for the bye-bye.